this is for the one who ain't never had a love, yeah. This one's for the girl who don't feel like she's enough, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This one's for the cool kid playing on the school team, crying to himself cause he never had the prom queen. Head full of wants, but they said it's just a pipe dream, yeah. This one's for the kids like me, they ain't never had one day. The ladies always turn their cheek, but they ain't let the fat ones sing. This one's for the kids like me, kept working when they had nothing. When people try to take their dreams, they stuck it to them, please don't change. For the nerds and the misfits, bullied by the rich.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. Today is Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. It is episode number 178. And for those keeping score at home, things are a little different right now. Typically, we start things off a little different. I have a little more enthusiasm. But today's a different day. I have people that maybe haven't heard the news earlier today. Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA, major conservative commentator, was assassinated. I think it was Utah State, or I forget which one it was, but it was a Utah University. And he was assassinated while debating and having dialogue, which is the thing that he loved to do and the thing he was set out to do. It was a brutal video. But we just wanted to start off the show acknowledging that. And we want to watch a few videos that encapsulate who Charlie Kirk was and what Charlie Kirk meant to us. And Dave, you are unmuted, by the way.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to go. Dave, you want to go to that?
Yes.
All right.
We live in a dark world right now. It's not going to brighten unless we turn up the lights. And the only way you do that is with courage. And so I could be like, oh boy, life is so tough, and, keep your head down and do all this and, just try to lie to get a good grade. Or I could tell you, you know what? Life goes by like this. And I don't want to live as a coward, and I don't want that for you either. Because you know what a coward is? A coward is someone who is somebody different in public than they are in private. They have well, I have to be somebody in my dorm room, and then once I'm outside, I have to pretend like I'm for all the SJW nonsense. What you're deciding to be is the same person in every environment, regardless of where you go, all the time. And that's you know who that is? That's a person who's free.
Here's another video. Go ahead, Dave.
Yep.
But first, I want to thank specifically the police here tonight that are helping make sure that this event, they really deserve a lot of thanks. They do. And that is a tough, tough job. I don't know if you saw, but they broke some windows. The terrorists did outside to try to come in. People had things thrown at them. The whole place was spray painted, not just throughout the week, but also tonight. And the fact that this event is allowed to go on is a testament to the terrorists that we are not going to put up with force of trying to shut down people you don't like, and instead we are going to have a free society based on speech, based on dialogue, based on discourse, and tonight is a statement to them that they're the losers and that speech wins in America. That is what tonight is all about.
So Charlie Kirk was 31 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the prime of his life, entering the prime of his life, and he was taken away from us too soon. I want to say hello to our guest here, Ed McCray. Ed, I'm sorry that you had to join the episode in this circumstance. You are a Walt Disney historian, a writer, a creator, storyteller, all the above. What was your reaction when you first heard the news that Charlie Kirk got shot and then later that he passed on?
Well, I first heard about it because some of the animation people were celebrating he got shot. And that's ghoulish. Then they went on to when he died, and
Yeah.
you just can't believe people are this dark inside.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what really shocked me about it, that whole thing. But I went through that with 9/11 because the day that happened, I was in animation school, and on that afternoon, the students and faculty had like a little impromptu gathering, and they were celebrating what happened. Because at first, this has been forgotten from history, they thought that was a Oklahoma City kind of bombing,
Yes.
protesting the 2000 election. There's several books that document that happened, and has a lot of the online posts from famous people that were celebrating that on the day.
Yeah.
That all kind of got scrubbed. But that was really what I learned. There's people that actually hate America and hate a group of us.
Mhm.
And there's no other way to say it than that they hate people, because
Yes.
where do you come from when you're celebrating somebody getting assassinated like that? And
It's pathetic. It's
Yeah.
pathetic. Dave,
And
what about you?
it's crazy because this really does feel like an inflection point here. Like things are very much going to change on how people do things on
Yeah.
both sides of the aisle, to be completely honest with you. And just like you were saying, Ed, it's incredible how many oikophobic people there are, people that hate the West, people that hate their own country, people that hate their brothers and sisters, really. Because when you're in a country with other people, like, you can have your disagreements, but you shouldn't be ghoulish about things. That's just not what you do. And the question that's going to be on everyone's mind at this point, or at least on many people's mind at this point, is what do we do when there are people who just genuinely hate us and want to see us dead?
Yeah.
What do we do? That is the genuine question here, and there's going to be a lot of people throwing out different answers. And honestly, if we don't have some action now that people might be more comfortable with, someone else will come along with action to stop this, no matter what. So that's just how things are going to be.
You know, this is one thing where when it happened, the video was out right away, and the close-up shot was out right away, and it was gruesome. And you know, I saw a lot of people that were like, he was shot, but this is AI, and you like hoped and prayed that it was AI. And then as it comes out that it's true, you just, you know, you see the gruesome reality. And I know for me, even at work, I was trying to update X and seeing, you know, all the updates. And for a little while, he's in the hospital, he's stable, he's critical, but he's getting massive blood transfusions and he's stable. And it was like hope against all hope that he was going to make it. It was unsurprising he didn't. And I gotta say, Dave, you know this, I struggled with, you know, thinking about what to say, because I saw a lot of people obviously putting out statements, prominent figures, and you know, we're not a prominent figure by any means, but we are in this ecosystem, right? Like, we do a show every week, we are involved, and we've interviewed people that friends with Charlie Kirk, knew Charlie Kirk. So I mean, I still haven't put anything online, but I might. But it's kind of, I struggled because on the one hand, when I first saw this, when it first happened, I was livid. I wanted retribution.
You wanted a Fed post.
I wanted to, you know, a Fed post. I wanted to lash out at all leftists and call for the most heinous thing. And then, you know, I thought, and it's not the way we do things in America. It's not the way we do things on the right. We don't do that. And me and Dave, we've lived as conservatives our whole lives. We are conservative individuals. Ed, you know, you mentioned you listen to Rush. Like, you've been a conservative. And you know, it's something where people don't talk about enough that, Ed, you definitely experienced this. Growing up as a conservative isn't easy. An open conservative is not easy when you're going to public schools and things like that, because teachers look at you sideways, colleges look at you sideways. You are not, you are persona non grata if you're openly and proudly conservative. And I've always been someone that hasn't shied away from debating politics, and that's why what Charlie did resonated with me, where his whole goal was to debate, and he wanted to have that open dialogue out there, especially with people he disagreed with. And if you watch what Charlie did, it was less about owning college kids and more about trying to just talk to them. It wasn't like
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro. It wasn't like what Michael Knowles does. It wasn't that way.
Yeah.
He was genuine. You know, he got some good dunk videos and things like that, but it wasn't that way. And I still struggle with exactly what to say and think and do in this situation.
He was, unfortunately, I have to use that. He was probably the most moderate of the right, the one that would come out and discuss no matter what, the one that doesn't want to call for certain things, the one that like he will just go and talk to you about things no matter what, and he won't come out hating you afterwards. No. He was just someone that would discuss. A lot of people on the right, we're not like that, like him, and will not be like that ever again. So it's not, and I'm not saying to shy away from it. No, I actually more agree with Charlie's sentiment. But yet again, the same question I asked earlier is just, how do you go about things now?
I'll say this from our perspective. Dave, I think you agree with this. Ed, I think you will as well. This is meant to intimidate. These high-profile things, trying to kill Donald Trump multiple times, successfully assassinating Charlie Kirk, it's meant to try and shut people like us three up. It's meant to try and scare Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, and all those that go to these campuses, Steven Crowder. It's meant to try and scare them from stopping to do it. And what I say is, I refuse to be fucking scared. I am not going to be scared of leftists, communists, any of these people, what they do. And we know they do it. Anyone that's read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals know exactly this playbook that we've seen here, the escalation in violence, because what they want is our response. They want us to be violent back. They know they have the media, the education capture. They want that. I refuse to be scared. So what I'm calling on everybody to do is we need to redouble our efforts. We need to come out louder. We need to come out stronger for what we believe in, because Charlie believed in dialogue above everything else. And I think it'll be a disservice to him for any of us to take any sort of a step back. We now need to not just walk forward. We need to run forward with our belief system. We need to know that we are correct. We still need to listen to others. I think that's a big part of it, but we now need to be stronger than we were in the memory of Charlie, because I know for a fact that if something else happened to another prominent figure, that would be Charlie Kirk's message. In peace, in dialogue, we need to now go and be louder and be stronger. So, I mean, that's where I stand. Ed, Dave, do you have anything else to add?
Go ahead, Ed. I'm good for what I said right now.
I've always been an outspoken conservative, and when social media started, I'd always post news stories and stuff. And some of the people in animation, they didn't like me because they found out I was conservative. But I heard from more in private that thanked me for saying the things they were afraid to say. And so I'm used to, this is how it's always been. And you've seen the extreme leftists, they've become more and more emboldened in their hate since then. Because back in the early 2000s, it was Bush was Hitler. And then McCain was Hitler. Then Romney was Hitler.
Yeah, it's the same.
You can go, I went back historically. You can go back, every Republican president back to Eisenhower, they've called Hitler. And Eisenhower defeated Hitler. So that's just, if everyone's Hitler, then nobody is. And because I lived through the Bush years when they started that in 2016 with Trump, it was all white noise. I'd already heard it before. And he wasn't Hitler. Bush wasn't Hitler. And Trump's not Hitler either. You may not like his policies or whatnot, but he's not Hitler. And I just don't understand the irrational hatred of his supporters and him.
By design. It's by design to do that and make that happen. So I just want to get to some of the comments. I see Squiggles McJr. in here. I see Caveat Ties. Hello to all of you. I put some of Squiggles comments up there. We'll get to a few. Squiggles saying there will be reprisal. I hope it isn't physical, Squiggles. I understand it, but I hope that it doesn't come in the physical manner like the leftists do, because it will not be given grace. J6 was an out-of-control riot, but they call it the worst day in American history. We can't give that to them. Caveat Ty saying, hey, be blessed. We'll miss Charlie, 100%. Caveat coming in saying the video is real. I doubted he could make it. I think all of us did. We were just praying. Squiggle saying the video actually made me actually sick. It did me too. Just if you want to go watch it, it's all over the internet still on, and I second our friend on the show, Keith Malinak. We should keep it up there. People should see what the leftists are capable of.
Yeah, you have to see it. Yeah, unfortunately.
Squiggles come in, and I still think we need to go after the corporal fascist media. They caused this. I agree, but I also think that there is ways to do it. Because again, everything is on the leftist side right now, outside of like the podcasting space. It's difficult. Squiggles saying Charlie converted a lot of people. Squiggles come back saying, I seen Charlie was turning on Israel and Zionism just before I logged out. I didn't see that, but I mean, everyone's allowed to change their opinions. And Squiggles saying, me too, but it's going to be. So we'll see. We'll see what goes on here. But rest in peace, Charlie Kirk.
Yes.
We will fight harder for you, because in the end, we know that our philosophy leads to the most prospering of the most people and the freedom of the most people around the world. And none of us three are going to give up the fight. We are not going to be scared. We are not going to be cowards. We are going to use righteous anger to win the day and keep these fucking psycho leftists from having any sort of power anymore.
Yep.
So, all right. So in that vein, I know Charlie Kirk would want everybody to keep doing their shows as well. And that is what we are going to do here, because while all three of us are political, we also talk about a little bit of everything here. And Ed, you are a specialist in, I don't think your intention was to be a historian of Walt Disney, because
It just happened.
It just happened because, like, you mentioned, like, when we always ask how people want to be introduced, you want to talk about the history of the pop culture properties in general, right? Not just Walt, but I think you stumbled down this rabbit hole. So what exactly are you doing with Walt Disney, and why the hell did you start doing it?
Well, I started doing it because Keith Malinak asked me to be on his show a year and a half ago, and I never see. I went to animation school.
Discover you though. What did Keith see
on Twitter? I've been working on a comic book called Folked Up America. That's folk here. Folk is folk hero. It's not the F word, but it's got all the folklore heroes in it, because people don't know who they are anymore. This is kind of what I specialize in, are all these things in story and history that have been erased. And I probably have the largest American folklore collection of anyone my age.
That's fantastic.
I know where they all came from. Walt Disney did a lot of stories based on those, a lot of movies based on the folklore. But I plugged them into what they would be doing today, and facing the things that we're facing now, and it's little satire, little folklore, little history in there, because it's all into one thing. And the devil is in there as the villain, because he was in a lot of the folklore.
Yes.
And
but don't
Uncle
you know
Sam,
the devil's just misunderstood?
Well, he says he is, but it's
what we know.
It's kind of scary. Some of the things I put in there as satire have happened since then, and
that's crazy.
It's
predictive, right? Folklore is there because it was I want to say dramatization and a little bit of like playing up of things that actually could happen. There were stories there. There were lessons in folklore. It wasn't just fantastical stories. They were made that way so that people would enjoy them and ingest them. But with folklore and with all storytelling, there is usually a meaning and a purpose and a message behind it.
And a lot of the folklore heroes were based on real people. And when a lot of the academics today, they'll tell you they were made up. And because I go back to the original sources, I found there was a guy they based Paul Bunyan on, and I have all this information on him. I didn't bring it with me today, but I've got the first. It took me years to find it. The first published magazine article of Pecos Bill, and everything in that is exactly what's in the Walt Disney cartoon. Even he rides the cyclone and lights a cigarette. That is in the original story. That's fantastic. I couldn't believe all those little details were in there. And in that version, he shoots Slewfoot Sue to put her out of her misery so she doesn't end up on the moon.
Oh, wow.
But and he dies because he sees the first movie Cowboy, how they're dressed up. It would be the silent movies. He dies laughing.
Wow.
Even that was a satire.
Mhm.
But I was doing this stuff with all these characters, and I was in touch with a few people on the right, hosts and things, and
Mhm.
Keith knows I do the Disney stuff, know a lot of Disney people, and I started trying to get Song of the South in the National Film Registry.
Yep.
And I guess that's how he connected me to Disney.
Yep.
This has been, even though I've been pushing it hard this year, I've been doing this for probably 4 years with Song of the South.
Mhm.
And then he asked me to do the thing, and we did the show, and we did
How many parts was your show at the mic? You did, it was multi parts, right?
we did 12, and we were only going to do
Jeez,
one
that's
show.
Awesome.
We could have gone at least 2 more, and we were going to go monthly, and
Mhm.
we ended up going weekly. But there would have been 2 more if we had gone monthly.
Yeah.
But I've learned so many more things since then too, and
Mhm.
how I framed those shows when we did them, as I was trying to show the downfall of what Walt Disney built. It parallels what's happened with American culture in general. It was
Mhm.
like the canary in the coal mine,
Yeah.
and that's because they've used Disney to pump negative things into the culture.
Mhm.
And you can I've got it pinpointed to the year it started, and every all the different things that they did that we forget about. And after he died, the people that were still there that knew him, they were still doing things the way he did them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of lies about that, where they try to say the films weren't as successful and people didn't go to them, and they did. The reason they got into trouble was because they built Epcot Center, and they spent more money on that than almost every asset Disney owned.
Mhm.
Well, I could
And-
imagine, because Epcot was like, so it was futuristic for its time, and it
wonder.
was
Yeah.
beautifully done. Like, especially, I could imagine at the time the grandioseness of the Epcot ball.
It's still
Yeah.
it's still a wonder to go.
Incredible to look at.
It's still awesome.
Well, they've ripped a lot of that out now, but
Yeah, well, yeah, they've done so much at Disney World. So I want to get into Walt himself, the man Walt Disney. Now, a lot of people don't know that Walt Disney started with him and his brother, right? That was
Yeah.
the original company was them together, but Walt was the
with
front man. He was-
Iwerks.
with
Like I
who?
always Iwerks. I always mention him. He's the guy that
Yeah,
co-created
yeah.
Mickey Mouse, and
Okay.
everything he did with the special effects that Walt did, Iwerks figured that out. So it was really the 3 of them, but he's been kind of forgotten by the
Yeah.
general public.
Okay.
And Walt was kind of the front man, right? He was the charismatic one. He was out there. He was the salesman. Essentially, he was the salesman. So what should people know about Walt Disney? And you know what? I want to mention one thing. I'm surprised that you haven't risen to the level of Glenn Beck, because I know Glenn is a massive Disney fan. Like, he's obviously discouraged like the rest of us with what Disney has become. But I remember when I first started really listening to Glenn on the radio, has to be now, Jesus, Dave, what was it, like 2016? I really started coming
Something
back
like
to Glenn
that.
in construction.
Yeah.
So it's been almost a decade since I've really been listening to Glenn again. But he used to go to Disney all the time. Even when it was starting to go down, he was like, I got to make my annual Disney trip. And
Mhm.
once or twice, Tanya hates it. And
Mhm.
we're bringing the kids. And he did it for so long until it came to a point where he's just like, I cannot justify giving them thousands of dollars anymore.
Yeah.
And he
I was at
stopped doing
that point. I was at that point in the Eisner years.
but it's a thing. So I'm actually surprised that you haven't risen to the level where Glenn wants to talk to you, because I feel like you're
Well-
someone that Glenn would be fascinated with, and I don't have the power to get you up to Glenn. I wish I did.
They've had my contact information even before Keith.
Mhm.
Politizoid, if you remember, he did the Woke World cartoon.
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, you do remember that. Yes,
He gave them my contact information as their Disney expert, but they haven't needed me yet.
I could
so.
imagine how many contact informations they get given though. Like, I could imagine their producers are ripping
Yeah.
their hairs out with everyone, and I could imagine they're looking at you going, "This is interesting," but then so many things go on, right? Like, so many things go on, and it's kind of
Well,
like,
especially the last couple of years.
yeah, it's been wild. So
I mean,
going back
yeah.
to my original question, what should people know about Walt Disney the man?
Well, of the man, he was a conservative Republican and he was a devout Christian.
Mhm.
And people don't know that today because they try to say he's apolitical. I shared a photo I found last night. Shared it this morning on Twitter of the Mickey Mouse Club where they were at the Republican convention. And whenever it's shown now, they've got it cropped where you can't even see the elephant on the desk in front of them, and the sign behind them that's cropped, and it just looks like 2 kids sitting at an anchor desk. But if you go back and you see the whole picture, they've got you got it right up right there.
Go click on it, yeah.
Yeah,
This is what the cropped one.
that's always in the books that way. That's the
Yep.
full picture.
Wow.
And I find things like this all the time. I've got another one where I don't have it on there today, but Jimmy Dodd with the Mickey Mouse Club, they're all holding a sign, God bless the Mickey Mouse Club. I've got two different versions of that photo.
And that's what we used on the cover art today. If you go
Oh,
and look
good.
at the cover art for the show, it's that exact one you sent me.
Yeah.
With God bless, and and it's interesting too because, and it seems like this has always been the way. Walt Disney was a conservative, a Republican, but when he made his art, he wanted to make it enjoyable and he wanted
Yeah.
to make it for everybody. And it's similar to what conservatives, I think, do in our day to day, like where we want to keep our politics here and our work here, right? A
Yeah.
lot of the time.
Mhm.
So give us some more about Walt.
Well, with his background, his father was a socialist, and
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
and Walt, there was a lot of conflict there when he was growing up because his dad was a socialist. Walt learned to draw from reading the socialist newspaper as a boy, and they'd have the political cartoons with he'd always said the fat cat banker and the little Union man. And the Union man would wear a little paper hat.
Mhm.
But Walt was named after the pastor of their church. The pastor and Walt's dad, they named their sons after each other. That's how close they were. And
That's wild.
he wasn't like a Ned Flanders Christian. When people think about that, he used salty language and things
And
like
especially
that.
back in the day, everyone pictures a
Yeah.
Christian as the Leave It to Beavers and that type of stuff.
And a lot of the films that he made were set at the turn of the century because that's when he was a boy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, Pollyanna, Toby Tyler.
Mhm.
I don't have the list in front of me, but there's just so many of those films set at that time.
Yeah.
And he would a lot of the films he did. See, he's known for doing cartoons and he's known for fairy tales, but he only did 3 fairy tales. He did Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty. But most of the things he did were about American history, like Davy Crockett. Davy Crockett. It was, if you adjust it for inflation, it was more popular than Star Wars when it came out.
Holy shit! I didn't know that.
See, and that's the thing too, and it's like it's from you look at it, and I'm a history major, so I love listening to this. Like ingesting this is fun, but it's like my memory and recollection is only from the 90s, and I would watch some like the classics and stuff, and definitely some of like the 80s releases. But I feel like at that point, especially as a kid, my parents probably were like, let's just stick to the Disney cartoons that they like instead of showing us all this other stuff that he did early on.
Mhm.
See, when I was a kid, the Disney Channel started. They started off showing all of Walt's stuff. So
Yeah.
I grew up watching his weekly show would be shown daily on the Disney Channel. And so they showed reruns of the Mickey Mouse Club. Now, I wasn't aware of how religious the Mickey Mouse Club was back then because I took it for granted. I grew up then.
Yep.
But I'll get into that later. But he a lot of these films that he did with the American history, he did one about the Civil War where it was called The Great Locomotive Chase. You ever see that?
No.
I did see the locomotive chase. Yep.
Now it's based on a true story, and how that he wasn't afraid to have sad endings in these movies.
No, he was not. He was he was good with that.
That movie ends where it was a true story. The Union soldiers went down to the South during the Civil War, and they stole a train, and they were going to try to get up to the Union side with it, and they got captured. Some of them got hanged at the end.
Jesus.
But they get the last scene there is Fres Parker, who is Davy Crockett, he plays the head spy, and he wants to meet the captain of the Confederacy that caught him because he wants to shake his hand so they die as friends, because he says when the war is over, they're going to have to get back together. And this really happened. And Walt did a whole episode of his show where he showed the making of this film and how they talked to all the historians and made sure everything was accurate. And I didn't realize he went for that much accuracy when he did these things, but he did. And very meticulous. Even with Davy Crockett, he kills him at the end, just like real life. He dies at the Alamo.
Yeah.
And even with that, if you think of the fairy tales, they always open with a fairy tale book.
Mhm.
Davy Crockett also opens with a book. It's Davy's Journal.
Well, Jungle Book did that and everything.
Yeah.
That was kind of the classic introduction to your Disney movies. It was their way of saying, it was Walt's, I guess, way of saying, I'm bringing these letters, these pages to life in animation.
Yeah. And I hate to break this real quick because we're talking about how meticulous he was and how artistic and how he was very pertinent on how he wanted to frame things. But I also want to bring this up real quick because I looked up the Great Locomotive Chase, and look at this promoting it. This is gorgeous. This is beautiful.
Oh yeah.
this
it was
doesn't happen. This doesn't happen anymore in modern things. You don't get something that looks this provocative.
Well,
that
all
you
of it's
see it.
digital now.
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah, I
a
hate that.
hand-drawn thing, and it's passionate, and it's done by an artist that gives a shit.
When I see this, I'm like, okay, that looks awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I want to see what this is about. And most things nowadays are very shallow. They don't have this type of passion put into it. So I'm sorry about breaking all that, but
Oh, no, that's fine.
No, it's beautiful.
And it's shot in CinemaScope, and that was very rare back in the 50s to be in CinemaScope. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea was one of the first movies shot in it. There were 2 films shot simultaneously. That was one of them. I think it got finished after the one that's considered the first. But right after that, he did a film about the pioneers, and that one you can't find in the CinemaScope. They've never released it in CinemaScope.
Yeah.
It's called Westward Ho the Wagons.
Okay.
And you follow. I mean, these are all. You could go through American history through a lot of his films. The most famous one, I think, is Johnny Tremaine. That's about the founding era of the Revolution. And Johnny Tremaine was based on an award-winning book everybody read in school, and it was written because they were afraid during World War II young people were going to forget why America was founded. They were going to turn to communism. There was a real fear about communism back then.
Which they were right.
Yeah, you're completely correct.
And Walt made that movie because of that in the 50s. And a lot of people always watch that as a perennial now for the Independence Day.
So where did the whole entire Walt is a Nazi sympathizer thing come in? Because you hear that all the time. That Walt was a Nazi sympathizer. He was actually a Hitlerite. Like, he was okay with them. Where and what was that a smear campaign designed to destroy him?
That came out of the studio strike of 1941.
Oh, wow.
And he thought that he went. That's why he went to Congress and he testified against the strikers, because he said that it was inspired by communists. And that's where the stories where they call him an anti-Semite, that came out of there. They said he was a Nazi. Now one of the reasons they say that is when there was a woman that was made films for Hitler. When she came to Hollywood, one of the places she toured was the Disney studio, but he toured everybody through there. That didn't mean he endorsed what they thought. And at the time, the American media, they were supporting Hitler. He was a Time Magazine Man of the Year. There's a book called Hitlerland that shows all these letters where they're all praising him at the time, and they all want to forget that. But the American left was doing that.
FDR, well, the thing is too, FDR and him were cool with each other, number one. And on top of that, they got a lot of their ideas from the things that FDR was doing beforehand. And I remember, being my concentration was Nazism. One of my professors talked a few times about the fact that they looked at what the Southern racist Democrats did in terms of like how they treated slaves and things like that, and how they considered them one drop. And even the Nazis sitting around the table going, the one drop theory is a little too extreme for us when it comes to Jews. Let's upgrade that a little. So they were taking theory from the leftists in America in terms of bringing it into the far left extreme fascism.
And there's a documentary that's for The Great Dictator, Charlie Chaplin's movie. And they show, they interview Ray Bradbury on that. And he talks about how the American left and the politics and everything, how at the beginning of the 30s, they were looking to Hitler to implement some of his policies in America.
Yeah, they were basically trying to do the same thing together. And he looked to Woodrow Wilson a lot too. Hitler looked to Woodrow Wilson in a lot of his theory as well. And the socialists over there, the fascists, did as well.
A lot of the eugenics stuff came from over here too. There's a book called War Against the Weak.
Margaret Sanger.
Yeah.
She with Planned Parenthood, she was one of the lead eugenicists in terms of what she thought. And some of our, even during that time when Nazi Germany was starting and we were friendly, we were sending some of our university professors to Germany, and they were coming here to talk about eugenics. Like, these are all things that were forgotten, and these weren't conservatives in the universities. The universities were still very left leaning. Our Harvards, our Yales, our Columbias, and the people that were going over to Frankfurt and Dusseldorf, and those over there and talking to the eugenicists there. Eugenics wasn't a dirty word in the 20s, 30s, not until they found out that was Hitler's philosophy and medical, that it became a dirty word. Eugenics was like the next wave. It was, that's what they were thinking was going to propel the human race forward.
They claimed they were helping evolution along.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
where the Jim Crow laws came from, is
Yep.
out of eugenics. And the revisionist history, they try to say it came out of the Christian church, but it wasn't out of the Christian church. It was out of the academia centers. People forget that they would send hunters to kill tribal people and stuff them and put them in museums as primitive humans.
Yep.
And it just,
Christians fought against slavery in a lot of ways. And even there was Christian pastors in the South that were killed because they were speaking out against slavery when slavery was popular. Listen, there are, yes, you can find pastors and you can find individuals that are wrong in a lot of ways, but in Christianity throughout time has been a source for standing up to a lot of these things many a times. And even when they're wrong, once they discover they are wrong, they come back and they lead the fight against these wrongs. It's been a thing. So I want to ask you about this. Squiggles McJr., Ed, you might have an answer for this. He says, dude, have you ever heard the conspiracy about Walt and Adolf being the same person? It's
crazy. That's an internet thing. That's just ridiculous. During World War II, he made all those films against Hitler. So he's making films against himself.
Hey, that's the best way to throw people off your scent, right? If you make them think that.
One of the films he made during World War II, it was based on a book it was called Hitler's Children, this book. And he did this. You've probably seen the image of the kids doing the Nazi salute in the school. Yep. Well, where that comes from, they were warning what would happen under a Nazi regime. And it shows a church having the windows broke out, the stained glass windows. Then there's the cross with Christ on it. And it gets melted down into an iron cross with the Nazi symbol and the eagle. The Bible gets burned and becomes Mein Kampf. They knew what they were fighting against.
Yep.
And there's a scene where the kid's sick and the mother's praying over him, and the government comes in and tells her to quit praying because she's coddling the child, and and the state even picks the name the kid can have. And this was all out of this book, and that film they don't want people to see now because they tried to turn it around to say it was a pro-Nazi film, but it was an anti-Nazi film. It was warning people what we're fighting about. Yeah, there you go. But the book is based on Hitler's Children.
Yeah, it's based on Hitler's Children. I was looking it up. I was trying to find it. Yes, this is what it was. I saw a little bit about it, and everything you're saying is correct.
I mean, it's craziness. It's crazy.
There's a live action version of that too.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild how they try to frame things in the future and the way they, the leftists are really good at erasing history, and they have mastered this because they have such a capture on the media, on the education, and they've had it forever. I think with the media, ever since they tried to make media quote unquote objective, I feel like that's where the capture came from, because there was a time where it was very blatant what side that pamphlet, that newspaper was on. There was no objectivity there. You knew what you were getting, and we're getting back to that. We are getting back to that now, and sometimes that's not a bad thing because it's better to know.
It's good to know the bias. Yes.
Yeah.
When someone comes at you and saying, "I'm telling you the truth about this, no matter what," they're probably not. There's going to be some bias there, especially a news channel. Like they're probably going to have a lot of bias there, even if they think that they're telling you something objective.
Which is why, go ahead, Dave.
It's just good to know where someone is coming from when they say something, because then you can filter things out and be like, well, they think this way, and that's why they're saying it.
One of the discoveries I've made since I was on Keith's show is there was a photo of Walt with a book. It says America something, and we found what the book was. It's called America Now, and we got all what the content was, and it was all warning about where American culture was going, and this was in the late 30s. And it has the same problems we're going through today. Racism's in there, the decline of the family, decline of marriage, smaller families, people aren't having kids. They even have abortion in there, and that was at a time abortion was illegal.
Yep.
And if you look when he read that book, that's really when his films started to reflect cultural things, because before that he was just doing the shorts. I mean, he would do some of the little the silly symphonies. Some of them would be based on folklore, things like that. But after that,
silly symphonies were awesome. I love those.
Those. I grew up watching all this stuff, and I never thought anything offensive by it. But some people now, they're offended by everything.
Well, it was meant to be funny, and the thing is, the offensive things were obviously offensive. That's the thing. Like, it was a caricature, and it was basically making fun of people who would see it that way. That was
Well,
kind of always how it ended up.
Another interesting thing about this, a lot of the animators were Jewish, and in some of those cartoons, they'd have the rabbi doing the little dance.
Mhm.
Well,
And-
I
and-
just saw where I don't know who posted it, but it was the original version of the Three Little Wolves, where
Three Little
the
Pigs.
wolf,
Yeah.
the Three Little Pigs, where the
Yeah.
wolf dressed up as the Jewish guy trying to
Yeah.
get to college,
Yeah.
and they redid it to where they took off the mask of like the Jewish
Yeah.
person with the big nose,
Now,
and he had everything else the same on, the trench coat and everything.
the animator that did that was Jewish, and he was the one that started the rumor Walt was an anti-Semite.
Wow.
Really?
Now, did he do it was that at the direction of Walt that they were doing?
No,
these
no, no.
things?
It was nobody thought anything of that because at the time America was a melting pot.
Mhm.
And if you look at a lot of the films, even the comic strips, and it didn't matter if the creator was Jewish or Gentile, whatever, they would always have all these different types in there because it was about how we're a melting pot and there's all these different people here. And
We could be self-deprecating at points too. Like we could make fun of ourselves. Like that was the thing. Like that was a Jew making fun of Jews. Like that was funny as hell. And that's one of the reasons why I like one of the shows on Adult Swim, The Boondocks, because it was made by Black creators making fun of Black culture. And it was on the nose because they knew it. They went through it. And sometimes it is funnier when somebody is going back and making fun of their own culture because they know all the stereotypes that actually hit and are real and they can poke fun at it if they're creative enough.
You'd have ones that we don't have now, like a lot of the older films in the 30s, there'd be Swedish characters.
Yeah.
And-
Oh,
and
they're
you don't-
like
No,
they
they don't talk like that. But they're always wearing plaid and
Yeah,
they have a little hat. It must have been how they were known back then. But
Yeah.
you see a lot of the comic strips where they're wearing a frock coat if they're from a European country.
Mhm.
And see, people today, they want to get all offended about stuff like that. But I'm looking, what are they caricaturing? What was that based on?
Yeah.
And because they didn't just pull this stuff out of the thin air, it was always based on something.
No.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always they were laughing at other people. Like vaudeville, we know there was blackface now, but
Mhm.
there was whiteface, there was redface,
Yeah.
there was yellowface,
Yeah.
and every
Every group,
culture,
yeah.
every group did that. I mean, if you've ever seen Casablanca, there's the piano player, the black piano player.
Yep.
Mhm.
How he got started was he was in vaudeville and he
Mhm.
played an Irishman on stage in whiteface.
Yeah.
So it was a two-way street.
We just saw Drewski do that. We just saw Drewski do that. The
Yeah,
streamer,
NASCAR
he did that in a NASCAR
Yeah,
race, and
yeah.
he was a believable white dude. Like they did a really good job with that white face.
that was straight full
It
makeup.
was funny. It
Yeah,
was fun. I actually enjoyed it, and the fact, and he went up to the random person too. Like the other person he made fun of was his friend. Then he
Mhm.
went up to the rando, but I'm not offended by that.
Mhm.
Now, granted, I'm also not like fully white, but I also don't give a shit because when people make fun of Spanish culture when I'm Ecuadorian, they're probably right. It's funny when people make fun of Italians. They're 100% right. Every stereotype about Italians that people make fun of is true. It's
Look
funny as
at
hell.
when they were all offended by it was always the white liberals. They were offended by Speedy Gonzales in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
And
I
they
used to
told him
think
for a
I was
while.
him.
Well,
I wanted to be him. I was fast
Yeah.
and I was Spanish. I liked him.
And well, that's what they found out. They brought him back because all these Hispanic people that were like that. We love that character.
Yeah, I mean, look at what happened with Apu and then Simpsons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
now now with the Simpsons, before everybody went woke, there's a commentary where they're talking about how it's great in animation because the actor doesn't have to be the same race as the character
Yes.
they're playing.
Yep.
And I kind of
That's
wonder if
changed.
that commentary is still there.
Oh, it's
It was-
not because
It was the Simpsons people.
They probably
Mhm.
took it out.
And they had Jason Alexander playing a Hindu guy, and that was what brought it up.
Mhm.
But they're
And-
actors. That's what they're
Yeah.
supposed to do. They're supposed to be somebody they are not. Like there's a reason why back in the day they had men that played women on stage.
Yeah, it was
Not because
Shakespeare.
they didn't want, but they could do something different and be believable
Yeah.
because they were talented.
Mhm.
Like a talented actor, I think of Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman may be the most talented actor I've ever seen in my life because he's never looked the same twice ever. And he's never acted the same twice ever. And nobody gets on Gary Oldman for being
Oh.
like 19 different characters. That's
I'll
his
give you a
damn
better
job.
one. In the golden age, Walter Houston. I didn't even realize he was a character in all these multiple movies because he just could play different characters like that.
And that's talent.
Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to be. So real quick, Ed, before you keep going, I want to get to some of these comments. Squiggles over here. I love it. saying you just watched a documentary about Christianity and the Third Reich just before this. I mean, what Christianity? Hitler feigned it and then kicked it out the moment he
Yeah.
could. He was using the Pope because the Pope back then, that wasn't the greatest Pope at the time, that was trying to like keep things even keel and everything. We've seen some good and bad popes. Wasn't a bad pope, just not the strongest at the time. No one in Europe wanted war, including the Pope in Vatican City. So
Yeah.
that was very much the attitude in Europe. He also said it was very interesting. Squiggle saying that sounds like primping the pump to play victim.
Priming the pump. About the Jewish animator.
There you go. Priming the pump.
Priming.
I like
I
priming
don't.
better. I'm gonna go.
I don't
priming.
know if it was that, but it was. That why they changed it later is somebody asked Walt if he would change it, and Walt had a lot of Jewish people working for him, and he didn't want them to take anything personal from it. He changed it on his own. There wasn't any outcry. Nobody was offended. That made a big thing out of it. They just quietly changed it, and then when it got released, it was a different footage.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that would be like, George Jefferson and the Jeffersons going back and going, would you fix any of the times that you made fun of any white people on that show? And he would be like, no, it was funny. It was comedy. It's what we were supposed. That was the show. It was a social commentary.
What sums up those shows with Jefferson and Archie Bunker? There was an episode where Jefferson's son married a white girl.
Yes.
And it ends with Archie and George are at the bar, and they're both united in their racism for each other.
Yes,
that was the
loved
point.
each other because they sat there and they agreed. And what is the comedian, Dave? I always forget his name. Ryan Long. He did the skit where it was the leftist and the racist coming together, and they agreed on every single facet of like collectivism and how they got along. It's a very similar thing, but that was kind of also the joke on its nose, right? How stupid were George and Archie for being racist because they agreed on so many things, and that was the commentary that didn't need to be said out loud. It was shown, right?
Yeah.
That they really didn't have as many differences as they thought they did, and they could get along despite being black and white and hating the opposite color, right? It was that was the commentary, and that's what made it so powerful at the time.
I think a lot of those shows in the 70s brought people together. It got rid of racism, and then it got resurrected. Because when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s, we didn't think about race of people. We would watch things like The Cosby Show or Steve Urkel, and we didn't think, well this is the Black
Jackson,
Show.
Black and White, right? The song Black and White was his way of saying that there were many commentaries too coming from black people saying, and basically coming out and saying that things have changed. Now, is it ever going to be exactly? No, because there's going to be racists on all sides.
You're always going to have
that
evil
rift.
people. Like we were talking today, there's always evil people.
Well, yeah. And then you have, obviously you have Obama, who came along and stowed that racism and created the divide. People love to point at Trump in 2016. Obama started all of it when he was talking about the way police handled things with Trayvon Martin. That could have been my son. And people acted stupidly. And it started off with attacking the police. That's where it started. Yeah. And then it came into a racial divide, which he was trying to do, right? Because he knew that there was a problem with the black community in the way they viewed the police. And that Republicans typically supported police. And then it became that giant rift that he created.
That, if you remember his friend, the professor Skip Gates, that got locked out of his house.
Yes.
That was one of the things that started. Now, he went after the Uncle Remus stories, because this ties back with Walt with Song of the South. He tried to claim that the Tar Baby story is about white people getting blackness on them. Now, wait, the oldest Tar Baby stories, there's hundreds of Tar Baby stories worldwide, and the oldest ones come from India. So they can't have anything to do with race. It was about getting out of a sticky situation, and there's nothing stickier than tar. That is what it's. I mean, people would get tarred and feathered. That is why they got tarred and feathered. That's where that come from. And we can't have Song of the South now. And that was one of the reasons I was trying to get on the National Film Registry, is because there's so much history with that film that's just been purged. And they exploited the George Floyd stuff to get rid of it. Because the year before George Floyd, they had a big celebration with merchandising, 30th anniversary of Splash Mountain. They did pop vinyl figures.
And the thing with you, it's like you see it with Uncle Remus, but you saw it with Aunt Jemima, who I have hanging out behind me. What up, Auntie? You saw it with Aunt Jemima. You saw it with Uncle Ben. You saw it with the Land O'Lakes Indian woman. And it's so funny. Any minority that ever was made famous through a symbol was taken away by the racist leftists. Like, it is, you want to talk about whitewashing and cleansing. That's exactly what they did to any famous non-white person in history, because they claimed it was the most ridiculous thing to claim. Well, it's racist. And now you see the Redskins, the family of the Redskins, that the guy worked for the Washington Redskins at the time.
He was the coach.
He was the coach. Exactly. And they were honoring him, and he chose the name.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the thing. He chose the name because it was honoring the war people of his tribe.
And
when
it's
so ridiculous.
When they reissued Pocahontas, which is one of the problem films from when everything went PC.
Well, I mean, the problem is Pocahontas was actually fucking hideous, and she was like 12. Like, I think that's the problem. They made her hot and like 18.
They removed they removed the racists calling them Redskins from the song.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh,
And they think they changed it. They're Shrieking Devils instead of Redskin
that's
Devils.
so annoying.
But see, that film was really the first one where they got everything all political. But that was way after Walt.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
Now Walt wanted to do one about Hiawatha, and he tried for years to do it. And see, this one of the things I've learned looking for all these firsthand sources. A lot of the storybooks that came out were based on films that Walt didn't get to make, so we can see what his treatments were.
Yeah.
And when he did Hiawatha, now Hiawatha, what that's about is Hiawatha is a figure. He's preparing his people to receive the Christian missionaries to learn about Christ.
Yeah.
And that was in Walt's version. And Hiawatha prays and fasts. He has a vision that the Great Spirit's sending white men to come and to tell them about his son.
Mm-hmm.
And when Hiawatha leaves, he tells them to listen to the wisdom of the missionaries. I have their names wrote down even. I did prepare for that. They were called the prophet and the priest of prayer. That's what the missionaries were called. And it says, one of the quotes from Hiawatha, he says that they're going to learn about Christ the Savior, his life, his sacrifice, his teachings. This was in the version Walt was going to make.
Yeah.
The reason they didn't make it was because the last version they've set up was in the late 40s, and that's when they were on the brink of going bankrupt all the time. They decided Cinderella was probably a safer bet than Hiawatha. So they went with Cinderella.
Yeah, Cinderella.
They might have been correct.
But at the same time, you see again where he's coming from. Go ahead, Dave.
I was gonna say, but that story would have been really cool to see as a movie, like an old animation that Disney.
I even found on his television show, there's a clip where Walt's talking about the original Hiawatha story, and he even says they hope to make this as an animated feature one day. So he still hadn't given up on it.
Yeah, he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So let me get into a few more comments, and then we'll continue. Squiggles. This is why I like the Boondocks and Dave Chappelle too. Chappelle's another one. And again, a lot of, if you look at any of the prominent like black TV shows, comedies, like if you look at the Hugleys, you look at Martin, you look at Jamie Foxx show, even like Hanging with Mr. Cooper, none of them were shy to basically lean into the stereotypes of their culture and make fun of it. And, obviously make it grandiose and funny, but, comedians realize that stereotypes are there for a reason. They use reality to make comedy because that's what makes things funny. When you can look at someone, I love Sebastian Maniscalco. I went to see him live. He just makes fun of Italians and Italian culture, and he's right. And that's the thing. And it's funny because you could sit there and look at that. Caveat Ty saying, need to throw some love to these old Disney movies on Criticless. Yes. So do you know what Criticless is, Ed?
No, I don't.
Criticless is a website and an app, Dave, if you want to pull up the website.
That's what I'm doing.
Caveat, as always, thank you. And what it is our former guest Blaine Andrews started this as an answer to Rotten Tomatoes, where it's all user-generated comments and ratings. And they basically have like a massive film, TV stuff. And you can go in, leave your review, leave your rating for it, leave your review for what it is. You're getting a look at it there. And write down
in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Give it
that's a new one, right? With Tom Hanks. And
no, this is the original show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then in the end, like, write your review of it as well. So I feel like you would do well there if you went and just started reviewing all the Disney stuff that you knew, and that would hopefully absolutely open people's eyes up to a lot of it. So yeah, I really feel like you would love Criticless.
Since I've done this with Keith, there are parents that are using Walt's films as curriculum in homeschooling. a lot of the educational films.
So I 100%. I encourage you to jump on Criticalist and
Oh,
write
Song of
down
the
your
South's
stuff.
even there.
There you go.
Five voters.
There's
Five
5 voters.
You should be
So let's see
more-
what they did. Was there any comments?
79, 75, 100%, 84%, 90%. And then you can leave your whole, there's
Yeah,
a
you
whole
could leave
bunch
your
of
own
things you can do,
review
but
and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
See, that film was a very important film for Walt. It's the only film that he had on both of his Christmas specials that were like the early TV pilots, plus the pilot for his weekly show. None of the other films got shown in all 3 of those. I mean, not Snow White, not Pinocchio. It was Song of the South. And Uncle Remus was the character that he quoted the most. He quoted the Bible, the Founders, and Uncle Remus
That's
in real
awesome.
life.
That's really cool.
And I mean, he grew up with those stories, and that's all kind of downplayed now.
Mhm.
And a lot of the films that are personal to Walt, they've been kind of purged. There's one that's called So Dear to My Heart, and that was really the first full live action film. They have a couple of cartoon segments that you're looking at a scrapbook come to life,
Mhm.
and that was based on Walt's childhood in Missouri. And I found, this is one of my discoveries earlier this year, I found the original book it was based on.
wow.
Now Walt
awesome.
changed, but Walt changed the story from the book where it wasn't all about prayer. And so then, I mean, the book was not about prayer. Walt made the movie about prayer.
Okay.
And then the author went and rewrote the book to fit Walt's movie, so it became about prayer.
That's pretty great. That's
That-
awesome.
and that just shows also the creativity and the mind of Walt Disney, right? That he was
Mhm.
able to take a book that he had written, enjoyed probably.
Well, he
and
just read it. He
changed
hadn't wrote that. But yeah, he would
Yeah.
always do adaptations, but that's the only one I found where the author went back and they changed the book to
that's
fit
so
Walt's narrative. And I got told the other day by somebody online, they're trying to say that movie's racist because there's a black lamb in it, and that's racism. And it has nothing to do with race.
Yeah.
But they have to see some sort of immutable characteristic in everything, right?
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
have to input that. And what you call Ed in the private chat, I threw the criticalist.com thing in there. So later at the end of the show, if you just want to go there.
right.
But yeah, I just want to let you know that I know, David, you looked at it like, what the hell is
Mhm.
Alex doing? I just
Yeah.
wanted to explain myself, David. Okay, you giant jerk. But so is what you're trying to do here cement the preservation of Walt Disney's legacy in the proper way? As you know,
Well-
and I think one of the worst things that Disney has done is they've taken Walt's name off the front. I
Yeah,
think that is
that's
such a slap
intentional.
in the face to the man that now it's just Disney and nobody remembers that there was a man behind it.
Yeah. I think that's intentional. What I keep saying is all these things are going to start going into the public domain now because
Mhm.
we're
Yeah.
you know, I mean, within 10 years, Snow White's going to be public domain. Then they all just keep going after that.
Yep.
We're going to become the stewards of this. So we've got to know these stories because we can't trust Disney to do it, the company,
No,
because they're already purging the stories now. And a lot of the history books that are coming out in recent years, they're all woke in the narrative,
Mhm.
and they're changing the history. 'Cause one of the other things that I've dug up is when Fantasia came out. That movie's about man's search for God,
Yep.
and that's been erased. And
Mhm.
every segment in there,
hasn't changed it a little bit too. Like they already were updating it and changing
yeah.
kind of the way that story was told then.
Well, that with Fantasia 2000, they just kind of stuck a bunch of shorts together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, the best one in that one was Rhapsody in Blue, and that wasn't even intended for Fantasia 2000. They only made that because when they shut down the movie that became The Emperor's New Groove, they'd have something for the animators to work on
Mhm.
because that was going to be a whole different movie.
I loved Fantasia, the original one. I
Yeah.
would watch the original one over and over and over. And there was something to be said too about I was not only mesmerized by the animation, which was at the time especially top notch, gorgeous, the best
Yeah.
you were going to see, but just the way he introduced so many kids like myself to the best classics
Yeah.
of all the composers, your Bachs, your Mozart, your Beethovens, even
Yeah.
the lesser known ones that he obviously enjoyed. And it just gave me that ear for, I maybe didn't know who the composer was. I didn't know the name, but I understood the beauty of those songs. And
And
it really made you feel something when you were watching it. And even as a kid, 4, 5, 6 years old, I would love certain things there. And it, like, I still remember to this day, like the little Russian mushrooms, just like it was freaking awesome and stuff like that. So
I've never
it's
seen
such
this
a good job.
poster for Fantasia, and I think it's really speaking to
That's the
what you're
original
saying.
one.
I said I never saw the original poster for Fantasia, and it's speaking to what you said was the original theme behind Fantasia instead
See,
of the one that people don't.
The Sorcerer's Apprentice, what that's about is Mickey's playing God.
Yeah,
Because he's there,
yeah,
he's controlling all the weather and the stars and everything. And the climax of the film is evil shows up, and then it's defeated by the church.
Yep.
And the reason they're outside is because they originally had storyboards where it was going to be a brick and mortar church, but Walt's reasoning was that the creation and that's where God would be, in the wilderness there. And so they're going through the wilderness. Now that Ave Maria sequence, he had new lyrics wrote for that, and they put it out as a storybook for kids with the music.
Wow.
I've got a copy of that. I posted the whole copy on Twitter one time.
Awesome.
And
So
that's
cool.
I'm always looking for these things like that are the original books and things. And that's why I have the Give, Send, Go up, because these things are going to be like 70, 80 years old. And I'm just trying to get them out there so people are aware that they exist. And I find old comic books and things. Now, one of the things I can't find the clips of is on the Mickey Mouse Club, he did a serial about the American Indians, about the history of the American Indians. And who was doing that in the 1950s? Now, I found the comic book adaptation of that, and I put that on Twitter. So people, and it'd be nice if when these are on Twitter, people are aware they exist. Maybe they can get Disney to republish them.
Yeah.
Like omnibus form. They own Marvel Comics now. But I mean, I'm trying to show there's a demand for this stuff, the vintage stuff. We want to see it. And he did comic books with Johnny Tremaine. They did a sequel, The War of 1812, which doesn't make sense because he's still a cabin boy.
Yeah.
But I mean, they still did it, and all of his movies were done in comics pretty much. And sometimes they do spin-offs. Now, when some of these things are reprinted, they erase some of the religious stuff. When they did the Little Golden Book of Paul Revere's Ride, they named it was Christ Church, where they had the lanterns. Now, when they reprinted it in recent years, they don't mention it was Christ Church. And that's historical fact.
I mean, it's and that's the thing, and I love the fact, like I knew this was going to be fun because, like I said, I did watch a portion of. I didn't watch all 12, but I watched a good amount because I do like to watch and give Keith some love whenever I get the chance to, because what he does is fantastic. Yeah, Keith's an amazing guy, and he does a great job. He has some incredibly interesting individuals on his show as well. So, but just watching it there, like. That's why and I said to myself for a long time, like, I got to get out on the show. Like, Ed needs to come on because, and we're not going to be able to cover half or even like a 10th.
Oh, we haven't even got to the theme parks yet. We haven't
exactly.
Barely scratched see, Disneyland, he built that to be like a World's Fair of American culture. And he said so many times. That's erased from existence. And one of the things, I think that might have been the first thing that drew my Keith's attention to me, is I found that prayer when Disneyland opened. They did a prayer. I've got it on its own on Rumble. It's the Disneyland opening ceremonies. If you go on Rumble, you'll find it. Everybody sees that speech Walt gave where he dedicates the park. Now, right after that, his nephew came out, and he was a preacher, and he gave a blessing over the park. And he said, as long as they're doing as long as they're doing what's right, they'll be blessed by God's hand. He actually said that. Some people say it was a covenant. And
I mean, and they're not doing what's right, and we're seeing what's going on right now.
And how that even came about was Walt wanted to have a church on Main Street, USA, and his nephew said that it would be kind of crass to have a church in a theme park. So they were going to rotate the pastors in each week, different sermon. And
that would have been so cool.
And I've got pictures of the drawings of the church. I haven't posted those yet. But when that's in history books now, they say, well, that was just going to be a facade for the Haunted Mansion.
So have you found that since you started doing this, people are sending you things that maybe they know and they have because you're the one that's kind of bringing this all to light?
Right after I did those shows with Keith, I got contacted by people that worked there in the 60s and in the 70s, and they told me about there was a Disneyland prayer group. And they said when it was in the 60s, they would meet at the flagpole and they would pray. And sometimes Walt came out of the firehouse. He'd stand in the background and they'd sing us hymns and he'd kind of sing along. His mother played hymns in the church when he was a kid. And
which is crazy thinking his dad was a socialist, because socialists are against religion.
His dad was devoutly Christian. He even preached sermons in the church when the pastor was away. This is what doesn't make sense.
That's so bizarre.
Walt would say about his dad, he wasn't a socialist like they were today, and that was in the 50s.
Mhm.
So he, I don't know what his, you can't know unless you actually got to ask his dad.
Yeah,
But
obviously.
his dad gets painted as being a villain in a lot of the books about Walt, and he wasn't a villain. Walt really cared about his dad when his parents, when he brought him to Hollywood, they had a furnace that malfunctioned, and the mother died because of it, and
Oh,
the dad
Jesus.
was never right,
Mhm.
and he really loved his parents. I mean, he would talk. He put his dad in his films several times, like he based characters on them,
Yeah.
on his parents, and the violin. And if you ever seen Darby O'Gill and the Little People,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
well, you know what, the part where Sean Connery's in the house and
Yep.
he plays the fiddle for Sean Connery, that's Walt's dad's fiddle.
Really?
Yeah, and
Darby O'Gill and the Little People is a fantastic movie.
that film belongs on the National Film Registry too.
It's so good.
I did a huge thread on it, and the great granddaughter of the guy that played Darby found it, and Darby's son is still alive. He's like 102,
Wow.
and they're upset. Disney Plus has a dubbed version of that film where his voice is no longer on that film.
Really? That is awful. That, and like you said, that's a racing history. And it's funny. So I used to work at a bar over here when I was in college named Darby O'Gill's, and they had a big poster, not this one, another big poster of Darby O'Gill and the Little People. And it was,
I
think
love
it was
that
the exact
poster.
one. That's the
love
poster
that
they had. They had that exact poster on the wall.
And that film, some of the advertising, it's the only time Walt's picture is on the advertising.
Really?
And that film came out of World War II. He was going to do a film with Roald Dahl, who, he did Willy Wonka and all that.
Yeah.
Well, he did the first children's book he wrote was about the Gremlins in World War II, and they were going to make this into a film, and they couldn't tackle the problem how you can make the Gremlins sympathetic characters because they're crashing airplanes. And when they did Darby O'Gill, that was the first time leprechauns were sympathetic characters. They were always evil characters before that.
Yeah.
And now they're like little drunk mascots. But that came out of Darby O'Gill. And when Darby O'Gill came out, there were more boycotts against that film from people that hadn't seen it than there ever were for Song of the South.
Really?
That's crazy too, because it just shows the power that Walt Disney wielded then of changing culture, right? Because like you said, leprechauns were, and they still are, like, they are still mischievous. They're still conniving. They will still rob you, but it's all in jest now. It's not in malicious. They're like fun now. Like,
if you read the book that Darby O'Gill's based on, they kidnap babies, they kidnap people, enslave them to dig for the gold.
They're like the Lilliputians. They're very similar to Lilliputians in a lot of their ways.
They're more evil than that, and their origin story is they're fallen angels. Yeah, that's in the book, and they filmed it where they were. It was cut out of the film. I have the shooting script for that film, a copy of it. It's not, it's a Xerox. There's all these scenes that were cut out of that film that I wish some of them were in there, like Darby when they're in the coach when he's in the coach with the king. He's going to die. He tells the king that the backstory that his wife died giving birth to his son, and he wanted to tell him all the stories, and he can he tell the stories to his daughter's son, to be Darby's grandson, and the king makes this deal. He's going to do that, and that's a very heartfelt thing. That wasn't. It got pulled out. And they were going to have in there that they were the fallen angels. Now, when the movie's edited, it fades in on that where Darby's talking about being in the coach. And then when they did the television, they did a television tie-in, and they made them fallen angels, but they were the angels that were too small to get into the fight between God and Satan. So they hid under the golden steps of heaven. So he made them into sympathetic characters.
Yeah, that is that. And again, that creativity, that's what we are lacking today in every facet. Basically, there's some video games that have that creativity that tell stories that way. And there's some good books that are still written in that way, right? But in terms of putting it onto the screen, that seems to have been fully lost of having that brain of how to take something and not just tell you this person is sympathetic, but make you feel that sympathy through their actions and what's going on.
In that film, you really felt that there was a friendship between the king and Darby, even though they would conflict sometimes. And that was that was the first film we ever recorded on a VCR in the 80s. And I watched it so many times. and that was one of my
Dave, have you
favorite
ever seen
films.
that movie?
No, I never.
You gotta watch Darby
I
O'Gill a little
honestly,
bit
I
more.
need to go
It's
back
really
and
good.
watch a lot of
It's really
movies
good.
now.
The special effects in that movie they still use today. That was how they did Lord of the Rings and Elf with
Awesome.
Force. That was all perfected on that. When they did the scene where that has all the leprechauns dancing in the cavern, they blew out the electric in Los Angeles several times because it required so many lights. And I think they set the stage on fire at one point.
That's
But
pretty
this
funny.
this was
That's
a major film for Walt Disney, and you don't even hear about it anymore.
Yeah, it was, and it should be remembered more because it is actually one of the. If you want to talk about some of like the perfect films, I feel like Darby O'Gill was a damn near one of those perfect films, like your
Yeah.
Back to the Futures and your Shawshank Redemption. Like
Yeah.
it should be remembered in that category because the story that it told. Not only did you were never bored, like that's one of my best things about a movie. I like movies where I'm never truly bored. I'm never
Yeah.
thinking about it going, all right, what else am I doing? No,
You're
I'm
never
like,
looking at the clock. You're never.
I'm like,
thinking
I'm
of
not
the
even
end.
kidding. Dave and Ed, K-pop Demon Hunters has a fantastic story. And that is why it is massive right now.
I've heard that. I've
because
heard a lot of people like it. I'm
it's
probably not going to watch it.
streamlined.
but I've heard it.
Everything makes sense.
Mhm.
I like anime and manga, and I know Dave does, and I don't know if you do, but it is, there's good action in there. The
Yeah.
singing, I don't mind K-pop, so the singing's really good. So it's like, and the thing is too, the emotional payoff in the end, what they bring you to and how it, like the big climactic thing, you feel something. You feel
Yeah.
something. It's fucking K-pop Demon Hunters, right? You feel something when the climax occurs, and you feel emotion, but it's good in the end too. Like I'm not gonna say K-pop Demon Hunter should go win like best movie of the year awards, but in terms of how movies have been lately, my daughters watch it every single day. I am never upset to sit down and watch it with them.
Mhm.
And I haven't felt that way about a movie in a very long time. Anime, maybe someone like the anime movies, whatever, but this is that's why it's Netflix's most popular thing ever. It deserves everything it is getting right now. So quickly, a few more comments with caveat ties. He has a question for you. Do you draw as well?
Oh yeah. I draw and I color, and I taught myself to do comics because
Nice.
when the animation doors were shut,
Mhm.
I started doing comics. And
We got to
I've been-
reopen some animation doors for you. We got to figure that out.
Yeah.
Find a way.
Well, there's people in animation. They think I'm going to be the Benjamin Franklin when this all gets started over again because I'm the only one that's going to remember how it was.
You're gonna have the shoehorn to listen when they try to speak too.
I guess. But
So let's caveat ties continuing saying Mozart is my jam, and then saying Dollywood has a church in it. So that's actually
that's what I've learned. I've never been to Dollywood, but I've
wanna
learned
go.
that since I brought this up about
Mhm.
Walt's church.
that.
There's still a church. There's a church in Storybook Land that in the Alice in Wonderland section,
Hmm.
and people are like, "Why is there a church there?" I think that's there because the guy that wrote the stories was a pastor. He may not have been a good guy, but we won't get into that.
I mean, he was right. He was writing about an acid trip, so it's like the guy. Like,
Well, not even that. Some of the stories about him, they say that he was in love with the little girl that he based Alice on, and there's a documentary where they have photos he took of her but that was the Victorian era. They would do things like that.
I mean, I will always argue that Through the Looking Glass is also better. I will die on that hill that Through the Looking Glass is better than Alice in Wonderland, but I digress. Dave,
I'd have to reread both, but
I like
you
the
might
Looking
be
Glass
very
more.
correct on that.
I like it
I have
more.
to reread both, but you might be very correct on that.
I like it more. So
'Cause
I have a question for you about the parks. I have seen a few things that they're adding Walt Disney. Is it to the Carousel of Progress that they are adding the
Yeah, that was the
animatronic
new
version
thing.
of him?
I think the reason they did the animatronic is they want to put things in his mouth. But I've had people tell me they've used the real audio of Walt, but some of the stuff I've seen, it sounds like it's AI. So I don't know, but I've seen it where it broke down. Now, how's that respectful to Walt, where he's there lurching? And see, their whole excuse is no one knows who Walt Disney was. Now, Walt Disney was dead for 15 years or so before I was born, and I know who he was
Walt
because
Disney is. Yeah, I know exactly who he is.
they aired his show on television for years, and that's how we knew who he was. I mean,
They don't air him. They don't air Ed Sullivan anymore. They don't air
No.
Mr. Rogers. They don't air all of these influential figures that they don't air Bob Ross anymore. All these individuals that really shaped American children for decades upon decades upon decades. And I think it's also because, we talk about, we're going to talk about the perversion even more of Disney, but I think they'd rather have you watch the decadence, and they'd rather have you watch the violence, the crime shows, and all that, where I don't mind them, but there's none of these, even like Daniel Tiger. I didn't mind Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood because it was a decent cartoon rendition of what Mr. Rogers wanted. But there are certain episodes that I watch where instead of talking about Christmas, they're talking about like the winter day. I'm like, no, fuck that. Mr. Rogers did talk about Christmas and Merry Christmas and explain to people what Christmas was, but also talked about Hanukkah. Also would talk about a little bit of everything. And the fact that they were scared to do that on the kids' cartoon bothers me.
Well, remember Sesame Street, when it started out, it was a filthy ghetto. And you ever see the Christmas special for Sesame Street, the original one?
No.
Oscar tells Big Bird Santa Claus doesn't exist. So Big Bird goes up on the roof and he almost freezes to death.
And but you know what though? That's well within character of both of them though. I'm okay
Not
with
now, but back then I liked to when I grew up on that stuff because they were like the Muppets, but they did sketches on educational things. Now the people that made Sesame Street always had sinister woke plans for that. It just went out of control after Mr. Hooper died, the actor that played him. But the original sketches, I watched those when they first came to DVD again, or I hadn't seen them since I was a kid. They hold up just like the original Muppet Show because it was the same writers and everything. Same actors. Now it's all, I've seen some of it with my nephews and it's unwatchable.
It's very different. It's not. And here's the thing too, where the original, Sesame Street and stuff like that, each character got a little bit of focus. They all had their specialty and what they taught with Big Bird, Snuffy. Snuffy was all about emotions. Big Bird also was about maturing. Elmo was the little monster that, the Count Dracula, like they all had their own roles, where now it's Elmo and Abby. That's it. You have like two characters and that's only one. The other ones come in there, but it's all about them. And it's like, it lost what Sesame Street was, where each character taught you something different.
Even look at the original Sesame Street movie that came out when I was a kid. It was probably the first time I went to a theater because the first movie I ever saw was the Muppet movie, and I didn't understand there were other movies. Oh, it is. Now Sesame Street. What's the Follow That Bird? What's it about? The social worker takes Big Bird away from his family.
And
puts him with a bunch of dodos. And it's like that's like a whole satire of the system. I don't know if it was meant that way. But
social workers were evil then too.
Well, and the whole time she's chasing him in a van, and he's trying to hide from the social worker. He's trying to get back to his family on Sesame Street.
That movie, I forgot the plot and how that worked out. Jesus Christmas.
And Elmo isn't in it, but he's on the packaging because he's in the background. He hadn't become a character yet.
Which is crazy to think just how much. And I get it. Elmo's a good character, but for me, give me Grover all day. Super Grover was the shit. I loved Super Grover.
Monster at the end of this book is something I grew up with. So
Forgetful Jones.
I
was like weird ones. Forgetful Jones and Guy Smiley.
Guy Smiley is awesome. I love Guy Smiley.
But
that's the thing too. And it's like you see all of these things. And again, it also leans into, instead of being creative and making these creative things and making them fun for kids, what's going to make us most profit? What do people say they want to see more? Oh, they like Elmo. Okay, let's give more Elmo. Let's give more Abby Cadabby. Let's give them more. It's so stupid.
When a lot of those characters were created, and going all the way back to when pop culture started with characters, I mean, comic strips and everything, a lot of times nobody sat around and planned what a character was going to be and how it was going to be popular. They just kind of emerged. Like Popeye just emerged out of the strip and he took it over. And Miss Piggy wasn't a planned character. She was just a background pig. And they kept switching the Muppeteer between each other, who was going to play her each time. And she just developed this role. And what ended up happening was Frank Oz was he's a director now. He was the Muppeteer for Miss Piggy. And he said he played her as a truck driver who thought he was the most beautiful woman on earth. And one time I was in a Goodwill and I found a bank that was Miss Piggy. And you drop the coins between her cleavage.
Oh, Jesus.
And then I'm like, this can't be real. I flipped it over. It says who made it. That's Henson Associates, official merchandising.
Wow.
It was worth 50 cents.
That is fantastic.
I want to go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I just love these. People didn't worry about, well, that's going to offend somebody. Miss Piggy was a very popular character, and she was even considered a feminist character when the Muppet Show was around, when
Yeah.
it was new.
Well, real quick, Dave, I'll let you get, but on top of that too, like I write, I like writing, and you're a writer, and I think you'll attest to this. Sometimes when you start writing a character, you have an intention, but then when you
Yeah,
start writing and you're doing whatever you're writing, that takes over. What your
they write
intention is
themselves.
gone. They
Mhm.
write themselves, and I think that's what creators used to do a lot, right? Like, and that's how certain characters come forward and certain characters get pushed back. Because as you're writing these characters and these characters are doing what they do because like again you have an idea of who those characters are and you want to keep them to who they are, but within that realm they do what they want. The
Yeah,
story starts to tell itself,
yeah.
and I feel like again they're not doing that. There is the message, and how can we make these characters get to the message, not what would this character do in this situation, and let
Yeah.
it happen and write it. And it's a weird thing because you get to it, and I've been, David knows I've been working on a book for well over 10 years. And
Oh, that's me.
yeah, and I'm that. Well, my thing is, I almost finished it. The first book, it's meant to be a series. The file got corrupted, and I lost 30,000 of my words. And I'm like,
That's
I
me.
am going to, and I've taken over a year off.
Yeah.
I need to get, and sometimes it's hard to get back in that place. But it's like, I feel like we're not allowing, and I think writers are forced to write some bad shit now. I don't think they all want to write this. I think there are still
Well,
some really freaking good creatives that would write that way, but they're being told you need to write this character and it needs to get to this end and you need to hit these benchmarks. Period. This is what
I
they need to talk about.
I
This is
think
what we're trying to push back.
another part of it is, if go back to the, like, the Marvel Comics characters and DC Comics and
Mhm.
Mhm.
cartoons, Looney Tunes, all that. The people that created those, they knew the classics, and they knew
Yes,
history, and
yes.
they knew all these different things.
Mhm.
The people creating stuff today that are, like, especially the woke people, they don't have that background of this stuff, and
No, they don't.
they've been trained all this stuff is bad.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
history
yeah,
is evil.
The culture stuff.
yeah, and they don't have like like a lot of people, especially like Lord of the Rings fans, and they bring up Tolkien, and they say Tolkien had a lot of life experience, and that's
Yeah.
what he drew on to write Lord of the Rings and everything that he wrote, and
He
why
was
he
also
become
a historian.
exactly.
Yeah.
But he had so much experience, and a lot of people that write nowadays do not have that same life experience that writers used to have that they can draw on and actually write about. But I wanted to say this real quick, and I wanted to bring this up because brought up the animatronic, the Walt Disney animatronic that they're going to put in, and how they're saying they want to like honor Walt. And you would think if they wanted to honor Walt in some type of way, maybe on their Disney Plus homepage they would put some type of thing.
Oh,
where
it
you
should be
could go
Walt
ahead-
Disney,
Yeah,
just like
well,
the 90s.
it should be Walt Disney. Yeah, but you would think there'd be some type of area where you can go and watch the original Disney movies that we've been
Yeah.
talking about today,
Yep.
like Johnny Tremaine, like those other movies, and you would be able to just see them right here and click on them and watch them, but you can't. That's not
And
what
Dave,
they
even
have
if you
because
go
they don't
click on the
actually care.
Disney tab, even if you go click, so maybe they don't want it on the homepage, right? But you have your separate tabs for Disney, for Pixar, for Marvel there. Even if you click on the Disney tab, the best you get is the oldest animation movies, the
Mhm.
most popular,
Yeah.
like you, Snow White on. You don't get anything else besides
Mhm.
that.
Well, there's a couple of shorts there, but I don't know if they're Walt era.
No,
I mean, I'm trying to that Donald one, I think, is.
The old
That's the
Donald
one
Duck,
with
old
it's
McDonald.
the yeah, with the bee on his beak. That's a Walt one, I'm pretty
Okay,
sure.
inferior decorator.
Flowers and trees with three little pigs.
Mhm.
But there's like 75 silly symphonies, and if there's only those few there,
Mhm.
And
where's
that's
the
thing,
rest
there
of
should be
them?
a whole category of silly
Yeah.
symphonies,
They
period.
should have the whole thing there.
Yeah.
Like when Roy Disney was alive, they put out those Disney Treasure DVDs. All that content should just be on Disney Plus. Like, you could go see all the Mickey Mouse cartoons, all the Goofy cartoons.
Yep.
And you just sit there and watch them like a television series, episode after episode. But it's cartoon short after cartoon short. Now, I'm certainly sure that Melody Time one's edited, but
I'm not surprised. And they should have it like I have the Shutter app. It's all horror stories, all horror movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they have channels. It's the same thing like with Pluto, the free TV, where they have
Yep.
certain
I use
channels.
Pluto. Yeah.
Yeah. So like,
Which
why
I want
not have?
stupid Pluto. You want to make me log in, access all the channels now. I have to create an account, you bastards.
Oh, I don't have to do that.
No, you
Just
will. To
is
get
oh,
all of the channels, access to all of them, it's
oh,
still a free account, but, like, the ones that I really like, I don't need it, so it's, like, my anime ones and Star Trek, my
yeah.
Star Trek one
Mhm.
is safe, so I don't need it yet, but if they take away my Star Trek, then I'm gonna have to log in. I'm
Well,
gonna need it.
my thing is a lot of the
Sorry,
things that
Dave.
I like,
Right.
I already have them on DVD.
That's true.
Well.
So go ahead, Dave, continue. Sorry
No,
about
I was
that.
gonna say it would be nice to have like a channel for all the silly symphony or a
Yeah,
channel for
Yeah.
all like a certain thing, but that's not what they have. That like they're
it's not what they
focused on
want either.
other things and they don't want to honor those types of things. When it
Yeah.
would just be nice to just have it.
So, getting a few comments here. Caveat ties, comics are becoming a good alternative for conservative creators. I'll say
Yeah.
yes and no, because yes, because it is, but no, because big time conservatives still don't view comics as an actual outlet. You'll find your Daily Wire people, most
Yeah.
of them will sit there and be like, well, that's a kid's thing. And they don't realize that it is a good outlet to continue to bring this to light,
There-
and that a lot of the American ideals were through those Stanley,
Mhm.
Jack
Yeah.
Kirby type of comics that created this generation
Oh,
to want to aspire to be better.
if you go back even farther with during World War II with Batman and Superman, there were anti-communist comics with them.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And Captain America was created to
Yeah.
be the anti-Hitler. So and Red Skull was like worse, and Hydra was like the background. The
Mhm.
Nazis were all
Yeah.
working for them. It was creating that big bad. So
Oh,
I want to say go ahead.
I get all those omnibuses too that I can of the original stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome. I need
absolutely.
to start collecting those.
Yes,
'Cause
yes,
I need to
collecting
start going,
physical is important.
yeah.
You
So-
never know if when they're going to edit that
Ex-
stuff either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I want to say what's up to Nate G. Caveat Tie is coming out saying I got 4 books out. I did know that caveat. We have to figure out a time to have you on because I want to
Yes.
discuss your books and stuff like that. We got to get you on the show because I want to promote what you got over there and things like that. Nate, I want to say what's up and saying, we said hi to Caveat there, but Dark Day, wasn't sure I had it in me to hop on. Nate, we did acknowledge that. We talked about Charlie early on, and I appreciate you jumping on. I know how hard it is, and I'm not a person that's typically affected by like celebrity deaths or things like that, but this just feels way different. And I
Yeah.
think it hit
Mhm.
every single person who is a conservative has been hit differently. And like, it's weird. This death hit me harder than Rush Limbaugh, probably the circumstance of it, right? Where it was an
Yeah,
assassination and
yeah,
Rush died of natural
that's why.
causes.
The closest for me was Rush.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's like this. I wasn't physically angry, and I wasn't
Yeah.
as motivated. Rush. I knew what Rush did. I knew what Rush stood for. He was so influential to me. But with this, it's like the motivation factor is different. So Nate, I just want to say thank you for jumping on. I know it's tough, but like we said before, Nate, I think Charlie would want all of us to just keep doing what we're doing and redouble our efforts. So I just want to repeat that real quick. So back to Walt. So with the parks, I want you to go into just give us some quick changes that they have had with the parks in both Disneyland, Disney World, from Walt's
He's like,
original intention with something.
Where do
to
you
what they
start? Well, the major thing is Frontierland. And when they built the way Disneyland's set up, it's like a time machine because you come down Main Street, USA,
Yep.
and you can go to Frontierland or you can go to Tomorrowland. They're parallels. And Adventureland was True Life Adventureland, and then Fantasyland is Fantasyland. So you've got their parallels, see? And that's all gone now because now they want to put in a Villains Land. That should be an annex of Fantasyland. It should.
Yeah.
And Walt never really did anything where they were celebrating evil.
No.
And I have the feeling that's what they're doing with the Villains Land. It's not celebrating villains. It's about celebrating evil because Disney now does officially license tarot cards and Ouija boards and things like that.
Really? That's
Oh,
disgusting. I didn't know that.
If you go to Spirit Halloween, sometimes they have those in there.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I might get one if Gaston's on there. Gaston's the greatest character in Disney history.
Oh, they've done some with the villains with tarot cards, and see if you go back far enough, they wouldn't do nativity sets with the Disney characters because they were afraid that wasn't respectful to Christians.
Yeah.
Now, how do you feel about the Descendants? Because my daughters enjoy the Descendants. I actually think the stories are interesting. There's some things I cringe at. There's some like
I've
race
never
swapping and
seen
stuff like
those.
that. So I'll say this: there is it, and this is earlier on. This is before a lot of like the really woke stuff was super capturing.
Yeah.
So it's also where we were a little more accepting of the fact that, okay, they want to make Cinderella black as long as she does it well, right? As long as the character
Yeah.
plays it well and it's believable, and they made Prince Charming Asian. Okay, who cares, right? There was fantasy, whatever,
Well, they did
right?
that. They did that in the '90s with they did Brandy as Cinderella.
Yeah, so Brandy actually came back in the most recent movie
Oh.
to play Cinderella again. She reprised her role, so it was cool. So it is. So it's what you're saying. It's not like, it's weird. They're not necessarily celebrating evil. It's like so the story basically of the Descendants is these are children of
The
evil
villains. I know.
characters
Yeah,
in
I know the
villains,
premise.
and they go to a school. They're allowed to go to the island in a school, and the island's been locked off. And Beauty and the Beast are like the kings, and their son is the one that wants to do, like, they're called the VKs, the villain kids. They're doing an exchange program where they bring 4 of them over to try and prove that the kids aren't as bad. And it does end up like kind of like work, whatever. The story plays. They've gotten to 4 movies of them, so kids do enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it's weird because I feel like that's kind of like the softening up, right? Of the kids aren't that bad. And, and this and then Hades actually becomes a decent guy. And the guy that plays Hades is awesome. I'm not going to lie. But
even before that, they did Once Upon a Time. And I think that was preparing some of this.
They did do Once Upon a Time was okay the first season. It friggin' sucked after that. Okay. I didn't mind the first season. The rest of it
Look what
sucked.
they did the first season. They justified having an affair because they were cursed.
They did.
And then it just kept going downhill from there. They had the villains kept doing more and more villainous things like genocide and things, and they treated them like they were anti-heroes. Well, no, the Evil Queen and Rumpelstiltskin.
Evil Queen and Rumpelstiltskin. I'll say this. So my biggest issue with Once Upon a Time too is that the main character, I forget her name, the blonde chick,
Emma.
She never had any character development ever.
No.
She did the same exact fucking mistakes over and over and the same thing over and over. And it got to me, and me and my wife watched it and we're like, this is boring. Where the juxtaposition is, even though Rumpelstiltskin was an evil dickhead, that actor was fantastic. He was really good.
He was a great actor.
Great in that role.
Where they should have ended that was when they ended the Peter Pan arc, because that was the end of Rumpelstiltskin's arc.
Yes, and they should have never brought in Elsa. They should have never brought in Tangled, any of that. Like Aurora and all them were fine.
All that happened. I think they got told they had to put Frozen in there, and that changed the plans.
Yeah, because they wanted to draw it in.
They didn't have a plan through it was like they were making up as they go. They went. Yeah, making up as they go.
I think they had 2 seasons in mind, and I didn't think they really wanted to go beyond that.
They claimed they had 7.
No, that's bullshit. Oh, then they decided to be terrible after, like, the first season was good. I'll give it to it. I liked the first season. Second season was watchable. And then once the third season, me and my wife, I think, watched the first 2 episodes and we're like, nothing's changed. And then we stopped watching.
Well, look at what they did. They also did. They had the Wicked Witch of the West.
Mm-hmm.
And she does a spell on herself to look like Maid Marian, and she has a kid with Robin Hood. Now, isn't that not saying rape is okay?
Yep, that's exactly what it's justifying.
I was shocked by things like that. And then they started making characters that were straight, gay.
These happened. They did do that.
Well, they remember Little Red Riding Hood. She was like the town slut.
Yes, she was.
And they made her a lesbian at the end.
They made her a lesbian. She was incredibly provocative dressed.
They put the line in there, friend of Dorothy. And one of the things I've learned is that was code for gay men.
Yep.
To each other. And this was because I did I got asked to write stories for the International Wizard of Oz Club. So I went and found all of the original books. Mm-hmm. That's another thing that's been purged from history. It was the most successful fantasy book series in history. Mm-hmm. And some of these books would have friend of Dorothy written in them. And it kept coming up. So I wondered, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Well, I found out but that's where the whole thing with the rainbow thing comes from too, where it's a gay symbol. It came out of the Wizard of Oz.
Which we are going to reclaim that as the Covenant again. Fuck those people. It is the Ark of the Covenant. And listen, Dave knows I said it all June. All June, I said whenever I saw a rainbow, thanks for believing. I'm happy that the gay community is embracing the Covenant. Thank you for being Christian.
Well, did you see
what you want to do? Just thank them.
Did you see what I was posting all through June this year?
I saw some of the stuff.
I did. Well, Anita Bryant,
mm-hmm.
And she had Disney ties with the Orange Bird, and he was the mascot for Walt Disney World when it opened. And what Anita Bryant did was, Miami passed an ordinance where they could have gay teachers, mm-hmm. and she was concerned about gay activist teachers, and everything she warned about has happened.
Yeah.
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 And she was so effective. She got it all overturned when she was alive. They went and changed all of their tactics on this is where the thing where they were saying it was about freedom of choice back then.
Yep.
They changed it in 1989, said it was biology. And then so they could use civil rights laws against push their agenda.
Mhm.
And when she died last year, they were celebrating she's burning in hell. And they just hate this woman. Most people don't even, our side's forgotten who she was.
100%.
And she was a hero. And what I did was I went and all these activists, the gay activists, they post all these news reports from the 70s of her. I went and I put them all in order in these threads. So you can see how she was right and all the things that happened and what they did to her. They tried to cancel her, and she was the first person that got canceled. She was the first person they doxed. And all these tactics they do today, they first started or perfected on Anita Bryant. And the celebrities went after her. I can't think of her. Cara Burnett. She did a sketch making fun of Anita Bryant. And you can't find that on any of the streaming services. They've cut it out of that episode.
Yeah.
And I thought when I put that out, maybe our side would like to see these things because this is the history of how we got to where we're at. And the same things that happened in the pride parades back then, they're the same things they do today, where they're saying people are Hitler and all that. And
yeah.
I couldn't get anyone to care.
Well, I mean, and the strategies haven't changed. Like they've all just, especially ever since Saul Alinsky wrote Rules for Radicals. And now that's what they follow. And beautifultrouble.org is a massive resource. And the fact that our side does not pay attention to that enough. And, I'm actually upset that James Lindsay has gone fucking insane because he was so good for a long time about exposing the left. And yeah, he's gone batshit. I absolutely have to admit he has gone batshit insane. But his early work can't be denied in how good he was in terms of fighting the leftists and wokeism.
Well, that's getting back to Frontierland. That's why they're tearing that out because he was. I think now the new narrative is you're creating your own folklore or something, and it's cars.
Yeah, and it's just so annoying because it's going from once a land and a world and a theme park where you're entering into a different reality. Yep. And while you might have some things that were from the movies and some of the things that obviously the company created, you're actually in a different place and you're going through these wonderful things that you might not have seen before. Mm-hmm. Like there are places where you might have seen from the fiction that they put out and everything, but like with Frontierland and all of that, you're going through a completely different area. It's not, oh, this is the land. Like I they did an Avatar spot. I can't remember what part.
I think that's in the animal one, but even that one, that started was all just animals, and they've changed that. They're just taking a bunch of stuff together.
And Pandora looks gorgeous. It does. You go through Pandora, looks absolutely gorgeous. I haven't seen those movies, but going through that land, it looks gorgeous.
I saw the first one. I didn't see the second one.
But you're going through a land that you've already seen, and they brought it to life, and they did a good job. But it's different from going through a land that you've never seen before, and that will implant on you to go see again because you want to go see the meticulous detail they put into this new thing.
Real quick. Ed, you need to address this. So Caveat Ties asked if you had X. So I gave him your X handle. That's why I had it up there. And he just puts, he was confused when he first searched for it and he saw a picture of a black man. Explain why your X picture is a picture of a black man.
That's James Baskett. He was Uncle Remus in Song of the South. And that's why on the top of my page, it has the gravestone where he was celebrated.
Yeah,
he was the first black man to win an Oscar for that role in Song of the South, and that's why I have that there to educate people. This has been purged from history. We want to celebrate people that achieve things. He achieved this, and they've just purged this entire film from history. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
I just want you to address that so that people will know that that is not indeed you. So I do have a question. This popped into my head. What do you feel about basically the erasure of Figment? Because Figment's sold there, but nobody knows who the fuck Figment of your imagination is anymore. So why did that kind of get erased from the parlance of Disney?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Figment got erased because Kodak was the sponsor and they wanted a different ride.
Really? That's it?
That's why he got erased. And then
Wow.
people got so outraged they brought him back in the replacement. They didn't like that replacement. They brought him back with the replacement after that with Eric Idle. And I don't know where he stands now, but he
You
was
could
always
still buy
the
the plushies, and I think like if you like, he's in like some like promotional like video things that he'll fly in. But it's
Yeah.
like I right now, like my day job is a driving instructor. I teach 16 plus how to drive. I can't say figment of your imagination. They have no idea what I'm talking about.
Oh
Like,
man,
and it's
Figment's such
so
a fun
sad
character, too.
because that was
That's-
such a common vernacular in our generation
Yeah.
growing up. It's just a figment of your imagination.
Yeah.
And we all knew where it came from.
Like
Well,
really,
So sad.
it predated Figment, that saying.
Yeah. But he did,
what-
that little freaking purple dinosaur became synonymous with it. Little
Yeah.
dragon, purple dragon.
He's a baby dragon.
Yeah.
Where he came from is they were going to add a land to Disneyland. It was called Discovery Bay, and they had this
Mhm.
the character that became Dreamfinder. He was a professor, and he had baby dragons.
Mhm.
And when the Kodak was there to look at things for Epcot Center, they had to show the statue of this professor, and he had the dragon. And they wanted the dragon too. They didn't just want the professor, so they had to make the dragon purple because he was originally green, and that was the Fuji color for Fujifilm.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yes, yes.
And then that song for him that was written by the Sherman Brothers, who worked on a lot of Walt Disney's things.
Mhm, Yep.
And they got kind of shuttered out the door after Walt died because they were among his favorite people. There's a lot of politics at Disney after Walt died. And they brought him back to finish Bedknobs and Broomsticks, but they didn't really come back to the company except for the theme parks because the Imagineers recognized who they were,
Mhm.
you know,
And
their
again,
talent
like
and everything.
the classics, Bedknobs and Broomsticks. It's one of the greatest musical sing-alongs of all time.
If you'd seen it,
that.
I wish it would have been made the way it was planned under Walt, because it would have been. I got to talk with the son of Bob Sherman about it years ago, and every character in the original version, they all find the magic in themselves. That was what the theme of the thing was.
Mhm.
And there's songs that aren't in the film that they didn't put in. Like the
Mm.
kids had a song. You know, if you've seen the extended version, there's a song Angela Lansbury sings that got added back in.
God, it's been years since I've seen it, so I doubt I saw the extended.
Well, they had a song about the kids, how they were all on their own, and they had to face their parents are dead because they died in the Blitz.
Mhm.
And they had a song for that. That was gone. There was a song where the whole point with Angela Lansbury's character, the reason she's a bad witch is she can't hate.
Mhm.
This is still in the film, but it's not as blatant as it was, because the reason she was able to bring all the armor to life is she hated the Nazis invading England.
Yep.
But she had a whole song where she talked about how she couldn't hate, and that's why she was a terrible witch. And that's why she gave it. Now, that's another thing. A lot of people bring up Walt Disney and magic and witchcraft. They don't like that. But if you go through all of his films, I don't know if this was intentional. Every good character that does magic, they're born that way. It's part of their biology.
Mhm.
Every villain that does magic, they're always consulting witchcraft or a book.
They find
Or-
it.
or-
Yeah.
And you follow every film, and the only exception is Angela Lansbury's character, but she's bad at being a witch because she can't hate.
Mhm.
And the first film where that changed was Hocus Pocus in '93. And those witches, they eat kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're villains. They're Satanists. They said they went to hell, and they knew the devil.
Mhm.
I mean, this is all in that film.
Mhm.
And when that film was marketed, they marketed it with they're the funny, crazy witches. It's a comedy.
Yeah.
And it didn't do well when it came out. People don't realize that. And also Nightmare Before Christmas, that was the same year that got rejected too.
Mhm.
Now those have become classics since then,
Yeah.
but people did not like those films when they came out. I went to see both. I saw Hocus Pocus in a drive-in when it came out. It had a different ending then. The
Really?
zombie went to heaven.
Oh,
'Cause I remember that.
Mhm.
I don't.
I saw that more than once. It was only in the theatrical version, I guess, because they waited for him at the gate, and they're like, "Well, come on,
Oh
Billy."
no,
And
I do kind of remember that. That you kind of like you saw him
seen
like
it
he's like
so
he's yeah. No, I actually now that you say it, and they don't have that in the TV
And-
version anymore.
when they filmed that movie, they filmed things that aren't in that movie that were very dark, like the witch that Kathy and the Genie plays.
Mhm.
Her father is a dog, and the mother she had her with a dog,
Dude.
and that's why That's why she barks through the whole movie and she smells children, because she's part dog.
That
would make
makes sense.
And there was another thing that was cut out of that when the boy that becomes the cat,
Mhm.
when he tumbles, it's
Binks.
still in the movie, he tumbles down the hill. He was wearing a crucifix before that. And the crucifix is gone after that. And that's how they were able to cast a spell on him, because he didn't have the cross on him. And that's not in the movie. It's in the shooting script.
Yeah.
I know they filmed it. And there were other things they filmed. They had this whole subplot. The reason they could get the kids to do what they wanted, they had these candy crows that kind of messed with their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a scene where they were in the swimming pool in the school, the witches.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why these scenes aren't available anywhere, but these were all scenes that were filmed. I've seen stills of them, and they're in the shooting script. But when they filmed the part in Salem there, that was filmed at the historical Salem.
Yeah.
Really? That's really cool.
That's really
And
cool, actually. Yeah.
one of my ancestors survived the Salem witch trials.
Wow. That's
Really?
incredible. That's quite the history.
Yeah.
John Alden Jr. But we go all the way back to the Pilgrims, the John Alden and Priscilla Mullins, and it was their son, John Alden Jr.
See, we're second generation American. Our grandparents were Ecuador and Italy. So it's like, it's always cool to meet people that have those histories of dating back to Pilgrim's Revolution, Civil, like anything, like any of those. Like
I go off John Adams, John Quincy Adams, same line. And that's where we come from, is through them.
That's
awesome.
Dude,
Yeah.
you're an American.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, you're one of the Americans that like all these crazy people on the right would keep. Like me and David, we're fake Americans. We'd be kicked out by these psychos on the right.
I think it's great when people come here from other places and they want to be part of America, and that's what's lost today.
Yes, yeah.
And
100%.
but one reason I do the things that I've been doing is because of all my ancestors. They're like the people who we read about in history books. They made America.
Well, your ancestors quite literally went through the hardships to create this country and basically lived near death at subsistence for decades and decades and decades, because the Pilgrims, when they came here, you know, we always like to glorify Thanksgiving, and the Indians and them were nice. It was fucking charity that the Indians helped. They were dying. The Pilgrims were dying.
Yeah.
Okay. They were not doing good. They were surviving. They were doing everything they could. Jamestown had just fucking ate itself, basically, not too long before that. And it was because some of the charismatics of some of the individuals, and they were quick. They were smart people. They were able to help learn the language, and they were able to communicate with the Indians and, you know, tell them, okay, we can make exchanges here.
One of the things that gets erased about the Pilgrims, now when they wanted to go to Jamestown when they came here to Virginia, they wanted to go to Virginia.
Yeah.
The wind kept blowing them north, and where they landed, that was the only place on the eastern seaboard they wouldn't have been killed on sight, because the tribe that lived there had died in a plague. And then on top of that,
that's a miracle right there.
But on top of that, it's the only place on the East Coast. There's an American Indian. He speaks English. He just comes out of the woods, you know, Squano.
Yeah.
And he was considered the American Joseph at one time.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's all been erased from history. And that treaty between the Pilgrims and the American Indians there, that was the longest peace treaty in American history between the two. And it only got broken because the Indian tribes broke it because they were mad that their people they were converting to Christianity, and they weren't disemboweling people alive and things like that.
Yeah, and they were actually wanting to settle. Like that was another big issue, because those tribes were still, they had their regions, but they were nomadic within their region, and they were kind of battled to keep their region within their nomadic space. But because the Pilgrims, you know, Westerners are settlers, that's what we do. We like to settle, and we settle near riverbanks and encampments. You had the Indians that also wanted to sit there, and they were like, why are we moving? The white man's not moving. What is the purpose of what we do?
It's not every single person. There were factions within the Indian tribes, because some of them wanted them to learn the white man ways and go to the white man school, and you'll find that all the way up until the early 1900s.
And this is the precursor to, you know, this is after, I forget his last name, but Thorfinn and Leif Erikson had gone and dealt with the natives in the Canadian regions.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it was where they were turned away. They were almost killed. They had Vinland, and, you know, Vinland was basically destroyed. The Indians kicked them out. I think it was a Mako Piku, whatever. I forget how to say their name, but they coexisted for a little while, and then the white man brought their disease, and they basically threatened to kill them. And, you know, Thorfinn and his crew needed to leave. And Vinland was one of the first like semi-successful settlements, and that was a Viking settlement. And this is now like basically the third interaction that they really had with white settlers. And it's a miracle that they were able to not only exchange disease, because that happened both ways. Like the disease exchange happened both ways.
Yeah.
But to be able to stay peaceful was incredible. And we don't teach the miracles of our settling in this area as often as we should. The fact that the Pilgrims were a miracle and that they survived, and everything going from that, it's been miracle upon miracle upon miracle to get to where we are today.
Well, even there's miracles like that kept the Chinese from settling here.
Yeah.
And some of them came here, and there's evidence of that, but none of them ever had a permanent settlement here in California.
Yeah.
Nope, exactly.
And then there's that whole story about California didn't become part of the United States until, after it did, shortly after they found gold there. Nobody found gold in California until after it was part of the United States.
Yep.
And that funded the Industrial Revolution.
Yep.
It's just, and these are all things that they're the kind of things Walt Disney would preserve in his films.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
all these things that we will come
Exactly.
back. So the last thing I want to touch on with you, because we can go probably for days.
Yeah, this could go for like
unlimited
forever.
stream, but
Let me get one more Frontierland story.
go for it.
They tore out Tom Sawyer Island. And this is
Yeah.
something I learned recently after they tore it out. When they built the original one in Disneyland, Walt was on the Tom Sawyer Island. He named everything on Tom Sawyer Island. And he made them move that fort over a few yards.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were building the one at Walt Disney World, one of the people asked Walt's brother, why did Walt want to move this fort? Why was he so particular about this place? And his brother said, Tom Sawyer Island was based on an island they played on as boys. And they built a fort on it. And he recreated that for Tom Sawyer Island.
That's so
and they
friggin'
tore
cool.
it out.
Oh.
Really?
But that's so friggin' cool that's how
I know.
detailed he was. Like
Yeah.
he was so detailed that
And I'm always learning more and more details.
Could he have left it? Sure, right? Would it really have made that big of a deal to everything else? Probably not. But it was important to him. And that's such and again, that's the creative mind. Leave an Easter egg, right? He left his Easter egg there to now be discovered 100+ years later.
And no one would have even known about it.
Yeah.
No, and the thing is, and that's a one-off question to his brother over in Florida that nobody you have found in the vaults of history, but that's probably was such a throwaway question too. Like, hey, what is going on here? Why are we doing this? Oh, it's it's based off something me and him we used to do as kids. That's why Walt's so and I can imagine his brother is probably passionate about it too. Like, hey, we want this. So that's
why it got built. Walt Disney World, his brother made sure that got built after Walt died. He was going to retire. His brother was almost 10 years older than him.
Yeah.
And he worked up until almost the day he died because he wanted to make sure that was built. They even bought U.S. Steel out so they would have the steel to build it.
That's so ridiculous that they had and that just goes to show, like, after being so close to bankruptcy, just the perseverance to then be able to buy out one of the biggest companies in the world at the time, right? Like that.
And it was because they told Roy they couldn't build it on time. So Roy bought the company and they built it on time.
Now, we could definitely get into stories about Roy because I've heard some things about Roy and, just the person that he was and how instrumental he was to Walt's success and everything. Yeah. But we will definitely have you on again to delve more in. Sure. I do want to get into this as kind of a last topic. Is there any saving Disney as we know it right now?
I don't think there is because all of the people they've plugged in, they hire from within.
Yeah.
And you'd have to weed all of them out. And see the reason it worked for so long is because you had so many people that worked with Walt. They all pretty much have been gone since the early 2000s. But they wanted to keep things going. Like I posted a thread over the weekend about Pete's Dragon. And that was probably the last film that Walt started, even though they did a little bit of work on it in the 50s.
Yeah.
And it kept getting turned around and it finally got made in the 70s.
Yeah.
And it was all the reason it got made. The one producer was he played Andy Burnett and he sang the song for Old Yeller. And he found it in the vault. Let's make this movie. And he originally was going to make that for the little child actor known as Moochie in the 50s. That's who it was originally going to be when it was going to be made back then. By the time they made it in the 70s, Moochie was an adult and he produced the film he was going to star in the 50s.
That's really freaking cool.
But see, there's all these connections. It's like a family. They brought this ahead, and with that whole thing, that whole movie was all about faith. And the actress that was the star of that, Helen Reddy. Now, what she's known for is the militant feminist anthem, "I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar." And this was the first movie she was in. You remember that song? Rush would always play that on his show for the feminist update movement.
Mhm.
Well, Helen Reddy, she lobbied hard for her first movie to be Pete's Dragon.
Really?
And well, think of the character she plays. She plays a traditional feminine woman. She takes care of her dad, who's an alcoholic. She wants to be maternal to this orphaned child. She advocates for him. She protects him. And she's waiting for her man who's lost at sea. And yet she wrote she was the performer of the militant feminist anthem.
That's so crazy.
And that's how I found out that Pete's Dragon was a faith film, was because she sings that song "Candle on the Water." And she said the songwriters told her that this was a faith song. And so then I started looking into the songwriter's background. And one of the things they did was Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. And they'd won 2 Oscars in the 70s for The Poseidon Adventure and The Towering Inferno. And they got brought into Disney because The Black Hole was going to have a song, was going to be a movie like that. One of those disaster films. And they wrote the song for Pete's Dragon, and then they decided to turn it into a musical. And then that turned into, we're going to show the dragon through the whole movie because he was only going to be in one scene at the end. And by the time that they got to the end of writing this film, the one songwriter, he'd become a Messianic Jew. And he started a Hollywood Bible Society.
Wow.
And Bob Dylan was one of the people that went there, and he said he got saved through this society. But this all come through Pete's Dragon. And even with Walt's version, the dragon was the angel Gabriel, and he took the form of the dragon because that was the boy's what do you call it? Secret friend, imaginary friend.
Yeah, it's imaginary friend.
That's why he was Gabriel, and the reason he got named Elliot was after the actor Elliot Gould, and then Steven Spielberg, when he made E.T., he named Elliot after Elliot the Dragon. So all these things connect like that.
That's wild. So for me, I just have to say observationally, I think Disney's big turn away from being still feeling like Walt Disney was when they pushed John Lasseter out. I feel like John Lasseter was still holding on to that Walt Disney spirit in terms of how to tell a story. Maybe not in terms of essence, in terms of religion, but just how to tell your traditional Disney style story. And I give a shot to anything he does over, I think it's at Skydance now.
That film was very well done. He did, but I didn't like it. It was pro-divorce.
The one with the
Spellbound, I think.
Spellbound. And here's the thing. And it's funny too because what's her face is the star in it.
Rachel Ziegler.
She can sing. She's a fantastic singer. And the thing is, the actual story, like, they're getting there. Skydance is getting there, but they feel more like Disney movies than Disney does right now because all the little minions and Spellbound and everything, like, it just felt like a Disney movie, just not as good, not up to snuff for what John Lasseter was putting out.
At how many people from Disney left with Lasseter to go over to Skydance. I mean, he had Alan Menken on that and everything.
Exactly, doing the music.
But I was told by people off the record what happened with Lasseter. They think what happened, allegedly, is Bob Iger told him to put some woke things into the films, and he refused.
He wants to tell stories. He just wants to tell stories. That's it.
I hold some credence to this possibly because they said Iger exploited the Me Too thing, get rid of Lasseter, so they made an example of him.
Yep.
He did the same thing with Splash Mountain and George Floyd.
Yeah, 100%.
They exploited that to get rid of Splash Mountain.
Yes.
And even like Skydance's first attempt with Luck, was it a great movie? No, but was it a cute movie? Yeah, and it was funny. There were comedic elements in Luck.
Lasseter got brought in while that was getting worked on.
And I thought Luck wasn't bad.
I've talked to people who personally have known Lasseter for decades, and several of them have told me when they had a meeting with him, if he didn't hug them, that they would have felt offended because that's how he. Yeah, and both men and women have told me that.
I feel like John Lasseter is not going to stop with Skydance until he is recognized as equal with Disney. I feel like he's going to work till the day he dies to make Skydance there, and I'm happy that DreamWorks is currently kicking the
I was
shit
gonna say
out of
DreamWorks
Disney
is
right
right.
now. They are
Pulling it right now.
significantly better. Bad Guys 2
Story
was
wise.
fantastic.
I still haven't watched the
Animation-wise,
Wild
too, they're
Robot. I've
beautiful.
heard the Wild Robot.
Wild Robot is as good of a movie as you're going to see. I love Wild Robot. I've heard the books are amazing. I want to read that series. It's more of a kid series, but I'm a giant child. But
I mean, same thing. But remember when I was petitioning you to watch Puss in Boots: Last Wish?
Puss in Boots is so good.
That's actually one of my favorite animated movies.
Wild Robot's another one of those movies, and it's interesting too because in Wild Robot you see a lot of similarities and elements of WALL-E. Like there's similarities in that because it's a robot. But I wonder if WALL-E took some from the Wild Robot books because the books have been around for decades. But it's the story again. It's one of those movies where I never checked my watch. I didn't care what time it was, what was going on. It was very captivating at every phase. Really,
I think
well
the last Disney movie like that for me that was an animated one was maybe Wreck-It Ralph. I didn't go in thinking I'd like that one.
Wreck-It Ralph was good. I didn't think Wreck-It Ralph was. I mean, I loved whatchamacallit, Luca. I thought Luca was very well done.
I didn't see that one, but I had a lot of people that worked in animation tell me that they thought that one was about Rainbow Jihad stuff.
See, the thing is, though, here's the thing. They fucking want to make it about that.
Yeah.
Luca's about two boys that become really good friends instantly and are just being friends. And Luca's kind of a little bit of a weirdo and an outcast. And the kid that he meets kind of reminds me of the slick kid from Fievel Goes West. I forget his name. The one that's like becomes friends with Five. It's very similar to Fievel and that friendship. Like the weirder little kid and and the slick one. And it's just them being friends. It's two boys being friends, being dumbasses, and it's amazing. The whole entire thing is Luca is different because he goes into sea and he's a sea monster.
Yeah.
But when he comes out, he's on land and he's trying to it's that might be their last super well done movie. Now, Inside Out 2 and Inside Out 1 are okay. They're funny. I don't mind the Inside Outs. But it's far and in between. It's far and in between where you get these movies where it used to be Disney was their worst movies were still great.
I think the last one I heard that people pretty much unequivocally loved was Coco.
I did forget about Coco. Coco was amazing.
I think that was the last one Lasseter was involved with.
Yeah, that's I haven't seen that.
I think so.
You've never seen Coco? Okay, no, I lied then. Coco is in my top 3 Disney movies of all time.
But then when it won all the awards, they turned that into a thing against Trump and the wall. All their speeches. And it's did they realize what movie they made? Because that's the whole thing. He has to go over the bridge through immigration. I don't you don't understand these people when they make everything about politics, and the movies they make don't even fit the politics. The whole thing about A Bug's Life is a conservative movie that's got out there more. But I knew that when I saw it when it came out. Yeah. But another one that no one thinks about,
hard work and grit.
Well, another one that nobody thinks about. They did Oz the Great and Powerful. That was when they were doing all the live action remakes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's actually a very conservative, principled movie.
But
I don't like the overuse of CGI in it, and they got the villain wrong.
Yeah.
But the whole thing about they're waiting for a wizard, and he doesn't come to solve their problems. He has them solve the problems for themselves. And all that.
The thing is, though, but that was back in a time that, for the most part, you understood, and I understood, all of us conservatives understood that most of it was going to lean left that you watched. And they were going to throw in maybe one shot of something that you'll kind of roll your eyes at. But then the story would still be good, and it's fine. I'm okay with that because, listen, as a creative, you're going to throw in a little bit of yourself in there. And that's okay. That's fine. But we've gotten to the point now where I'm throwing everything into it. There was, I forget what the series is that they came out with, and it's like a short series about different emotions and things like that. And we watched the first one, and it was kind of about self-doubt of a little girl. It's all about the softball team that they came out with.
I know what you're talking about.
And the first one wasn't terrible. It was about self-doubt, and it creeped up, and she beat it because of her dad was the coach. The second one was about the teacher being gay and trying to hook up on Tinder. And that's when me and my wife were watching it. We were watching it with our daughters. We always watch it together. The moment that one of the kids came up to the teacher and started talking to the teacher about its romantic life. And this was a little girl talking to a gay man about his romantic life. And
that
the gay man
happen.
happened to be an umpire. He happened to be like an umpire. That was his connection. And we looked at that and we're like, we're not watching this anymore. My daughters were like, why? I'm like, because we said so. Like,
You might need to do what Shad does and start pre-watching things, just
Well,
so you know.
here's the thing. I don't care. I have no problem telling my kids why I'm
Well,
watching
yeah,
that
no,
because
I
it's
kn-
wrong. Like,
I
will
know
find out
that.
because it's wrong.
I understand that, but it's just like, just so you don't have to ever like just keep doing that. 'Cause
I'm okay
You're
with
gonna,
that.
you're
I
gonna
don't
do
give a
that with a
shit.
lot of
Well,
things.
think about some of the shows when we were kids where they had the teacher with the kids in the sitcom. Did they ever talk about the teacher's love life with the kids?
No.
No.
I mean,
No.
I don't know if you know this. Saved by the Bell started as a Disney series.
Yes, I do know that.
Yeah, and it was Haley Mills as Miss Bliss. Now, she was the central character, and they
Yes, it was.
shifted it to be about the kids.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I don't remember them ever talking about her love life with the kids.
No. It was about teaching morals
Drexel's class.
in a comedic way to a bunch of, different, very different type of high school kids that were all
Yeah.
good friends, right?
Yeah.
You had the popular kid in Zach, you had the really good athlete jock in AC Slater,
Nerd.
and you had the popular girl, you had the more athletic
Genius
girl, you had the nerd
Fashion
girl and boy, fashion girl. You had all that, and it was very similar in a way also to Boy Meets World. Boy Meets World
Yeah.
was incredible. Who was not raised in our generation by Feeneyisms, okay? Feeney
Yeah.
gave you all the wisdom you needed in life. Mr. Feeney, and I will sit there. My daughter's, part of her name has Fiend in it. I will scream Fiend at her because of that show.
The producer of that show was the son of Robert Sherman, who was one of the Sherman brothers.
That makes
Really?
total
That's-
sense now for how it ends. Because again,
Yeah.
it was also a show where it's so crazy, the inversion of what's gone on with sitcoms, where it used to be the dad was the patriarch and the dad
Yeah.
led the family. He had wisdom. Yes, he could still be goofy. The mother would, be a little more, the
Well, look
mother
at
was
Steve
never
Urkel.
portrayed as an idiot,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah,
she
look
was
Steve Urkel
always,
did that.
Mhm.
they were a good team. Now it's all the guy's a moron. The woman's always smart. The guy just
Yeah.
gets through. And it's like,
Mhm.
and I think about Boy Meets World, where the father, he was goofy. It's not like he wasn't a goofball. He was goofy, but Corey and God, what was his name?
Pango was the girlfriend.
Topanga was what was the older brother? Eric. Corey and Eric, he was their disciplinarian. They were scared of dad. But dad would always discipline them, but teach them a lesson. And he had that character. And mom did the same as well. They showed the equals of what each role was played, which is also why I currently love Bluey. And I'm okay with my kids watching Bluey.
Yeah.
Because they treat both the roles of the father and mother with respect as father and mother. Even as they're doing goofy things and playing with the kids, when it comes to teach a lesson, it's not that the dad's an idiot and the mom always knows. The dad teaches lessons, the moms teach lesson, and that's what we need to see again. Kids need to see that more. That's why I won't let my daughters watch Peppa Pig, because the dad's a freaking moron.
Well, I went back when they put it on DVD. Remember Dinosaurs? That was part of TGIF.
Not the mama.
Yeah, but when you go back and look at it as an adult, we were watching leftist propaganda.
Yes,
Yeah.
we were.
And even worse, Fraggle Rock. I grew up on that, and I didn't catch it when I was a kid that it was all propaganda. I couldn't watch it as an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the same people that did all the Muppet Show and everything.
Did you hear they're remaking Dinosaurs? How are they remaking it? They died.
I've never heard that. What?
I heard they're remaking it.
I didn't hear they were remaking it, but
They died. It's one of the most tragic endings of all time. That and Alf are the two most tragic endings
When
to any sitcom.
when they aired Dinosaurs, that episode, we didn't know it was the last episode. It wasn't. I didn't know about it till it was on DVD. That was how it ended. I just
got the asteroids came. Like, it's so fucking crazy.
They froze to death because they screwed up the environment or something.
Yeah,
but see,
something
even
like
that.
It's so things have changed, but even there, right? It was leftist propaganda, but at least it was entertaining.
Yeah.
At least it was entertaining. Now it's propaganda and it's not entertaining, to the point where even like your believers, but they're not like crazy leftists, will watch this and go, "This is fucking terrible."
Well,
Like,
look at
I believe in this stuff.
They
and
won't
it's
even
bad.
watch it. That's
They
why the
won't even
ratings are
watch it
so
because it
low.
failed.
look at the early episodes of The Simpsons, the first in the 90s.
Yeah.
Ned Flanders was treated as a serious character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he became after they killed Maude, he became kind of a joke.
Yeah.
And they started having him do things that Ned Flanders wouldn't do. Like he slept with a woman that was the country Christian music star. Ned Flanders, you've seen that episode where he kept calling the preacher about he swallowed a toothpick and He might be he could be meeker and all this. He wouldn't have done that.
No.
And the
But
thing is,
they-
Ned was
that's-
always goofy, but he wasn't stupid. He
But
was
everything
goofy,
always-
but he wasn't stupid, and he wasn't naive.
Everything always worked out for Ned too,
Yeah,
Yes.
and that
he
was
a
on
good
purpose.
person,
That's
'cause
the
he was
thing.
a good person.
Yes. Ned
But
was right.
They got rid of the Christian writers on that show. They just kind of phased out and they got replaced with leftists, and that's why everything changed with the Simpson writing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you
'Cause-
also look at, Futurama. I thought Futurama, especially early Futurama, was just, it was funny, but it also was tackling a lot of different stories and a lot of different moral things, and always coming back to kind of more of the grounded version of it, right? Fry was a giant moron, but he learned a lot of hard life lessons through a lot of the things that went on. So while it was funny, like, again, this is where comedy also had a message that wasn't super stupid either.
Futurama also has one of the saddest episodes I've ever seen in my life.
The dog?
And yes, and I don't ever want
One
to
of my favorite quotes comes from Futurama. When you do things right, people won't be sure you've done anything at all. That is one of my favorite quotes in the world because it's true. We don't notice when things are going right. Like me, I use this example as a driving instructor with my kids because sometimes they're super nervous and they want to run away from every car they see. And we'll get to like 3 lessons deep and I'll say, we've passed hundreds of cars. Have any of them hit you yet?
Mm-hmm.
No, because they don't notice when people are doing things right. They're only looking for the wrong. And that's funny. It's like one of my favorite quotes comes from like one of the most ridiculous comedy cartoons of all time, but it's so true.
And then look at what their follow-up is, that one that's on Netflix. That's it's all woke.
It's terrible. The new Futurama is awful. It's awful.
Yeah, she's the lesbian with the mermaid, and they have God and the devil in it, and
I think I know what you're talking about.
I think it's called Disenchanted or Disenchantment or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
but it's all the same people, but they had to inject all that stuff into it, and you probably don't remember this. Back in around 2000, 2001, NBC did a series was called God, the Devil, and Bob. It only ran for part of a season. It's on DVD. It didn't do well because people felt they were making fun of religion. And it was about God was going to destroy the world if it was up to if this one guy was worthy enough, if he's going to destroy it or not. So the devil is always trying to get him to do the bad thing. And God's like Jerry Garcia. Oh, there you go. That's it.
I've never seen this. It looks familiar because it looks like other things.
Bob,
from back in
the
time.
animation kind of looks like H. John Benjamin style animation with like home movies and all that type of stuff.
The voice of Bob is he was the one dumb alien on Third Rock from the Sun. French Stewart.
Okay,
and that's the voice.
Mm-hmm.
And James Gardner was God.
Yeah, Alan Cumming was in this.
Nancy he was the devil.
Alan Cummings was the devil.
Yeah.
And when they did this on NBC, they acted like God is really getting a sitcom on NBC. That would be the commercials. They're like, he is coming to NBC. And
really good.
Full episodes on YouTube.
That's actually really good. Marketing for that. He is coming. Like it's true.
There's only I can't remember the episode, but I think there was only one decent episode in the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But they had religious scholars involved on that, but they wouldn't get involved in one episode, and that was God had a girlfriend. Ooh. So they couldn't even. But it had some of the people from The Simpsons involved in that with the voices and everything. But there were a lot of shows in the 90s. Like there was The Critic. I like the
Critic
comedy.
might be coming back, which makes me excited. Yeah, because I saw the actor. God, I forget his name. He's so
John
good.
Lovitz.
John Lovitz. He's a great actor.
He should be in more animation. He has a great voice.
Yeah. John Lovitz said that apparently there's talks of him coming. He got contacted, and they're thinking of bringing The Critic back, and that would be amazing because
I watched it when it was on originally.
Never ended. It didn't officially end. I don't think.
No, and then they did web episodes.
Yeah, but it's not like the story's not over.
Yeah,
we need closure.
Yeah. Well, the best one with The Critic was when Siskel and Ebert broke up.
Yes, that was fantastic.
Yeah, but even with that, who are you going to have to be iconic critics like that today? They're all dead.
Well, you'd have to look at. I mean, you'd have to look at.
You'd have to get some of the.
Give us in the conservative space. Give us Christian Toto, who was one of our guests.
I don't know if they will, but they'd have to be people that have podcasts, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
Chris Gore has it. He does his own, and Alan and G. He's Alan Ing. He's another one.
Well, look at what they did with that Doomcock guy on She-Hulk. They
Yeah,
ripped him off on.
he was one of the villains.
Yeah.
He was one of the main villains, which is funny that they did
But
that.
his Doomcock's costume is better.
Yeah,
His mask is better.
Yeah.
And you got Disney with all their millions, and they couldn't do a better. I mean, I don't know anything about Doomcock himself, but it's probably just some guy in his garage doing these things on his own.
Mm-hmm.
And he did a better job at making an iconic character than Disney did.
Easily. But the thing is, their creatives are still there. They're just not getting hired by the major companies. That's the thing. You look at YouTube, some of the YouTube creatives are incredible. Some of the things they do there. David, you love the little horror scene on YouTube. Some of those horrors are next level good.
And actually, like the creator of the Backrooms, Kane Pixel, not the Backrooms itself, not the lore, but the videos on YouTube, Kane Pixels. He's actually A24. We reached out to him a while ago, and they're developing a Backrooms movie. So that's
the right studio to do it too.
There are plenty of creatives that aren't in Hollywood, and I mean this has always been true in some sense, but at least Hollywood had something.
But the goal was to get there and to because you had once you got there, they had the money and the ability to help.
But now everything's so open, and you can do so much in a much easier way. Like the barrier to entry is lessened for everything.
Things are spreading out too. They're going to different cities and things like that. Like so, it's gonna get Hollywood is about to die a very slow, painful, deserved, agonizing death.
One of the things I think is going to happen with AI, I don't know how long it's going to take to get there, but it's going to make it so if you're a creator that you can design your characters, write your story, everything, you can put your model sheets into the AI and put your script in and have it make your film. You can have one person make an animated feature now.
Yeah, 100%.
And
go ahead.
And I think that's where it's going to go. Now, some people are saying, well, that's going to steal jobs away. But I'm looking at it as you might have 30 different creatives that make great films that are animated films. They couldn't do it on their own before. You need a whole team of people. Yeah. And it might be truer to the original version if they've used all of their, if it's just using their artwork to generate everything. It'll have their look. And I'm looking at it like that. I'm not looking at it as it's going to rip off all these different creators.
I also think, though,
kind of software.
A true creative will do that, but then we'll also look at it and go, I'm going to need extra hands and expertise to help me make this perfect, right? That'll be the baseline. I feel like we're going to get a lot of baseline through AI animation, but then they will go to the studios with people that do have the skills to maybe touch things up more.
Well, that's kind of like what they did with motion capture with Gollum.
With mocaps, exactly. So I feel like as people fear of it, like I get it, AI art's a little terrifying because that's a still, right? That's one. If you could prompt it perfectly and it'll work with you, like. But I think when it comes to the movies, you're still going to need that human touch at some point to come over to you and work with you to touch this up here, make this better there, add this, make this sound, and I think it'll be less jobs, but it'll still be a team effort outside of that.
Yeah, and Alex, I've shared a bunch of AI dumb music videos with you.
And
it's amazing where it's at, but that's one person that works like a motherfucker on those things. Like he writes the lyrics to them, and
he's getting the credit he deserves.
So it's just like, what creatives could do with those types of tools is going to be amazing. It's just whether or not how much people are going to be involved, and how much the human passion can still come through on their art and what they're trying to do.
So, Ed, as much as I would like to talk to you for longer, we got to get going on this one. But we will have you on again because I feel like we can pick so many different topics. It's more than just
going like from.
I know all of these things because this is my wheelhouse, and people don't take it seriously, and they need to on the right.
Yeah.
So no, it's more for you that I like we started off with Walt, but we could go so many different ways in pop culture. And I like that. I like talking to people on the right that do embrace pop culture the way Dave and I do, which is why we like Geeks and Gamers. We really like Side Scrollers. We love Craig over there. He's fantastic. And all the people that Craig talks to, and obviously Nerdrotic and the people that do Friday Night Tights, they all kind of come together. And Dave and I like to gravitate to that because they're conservative. They're more right leaning. And they also like the same things we like. So it's like finding out, it's like one of those things, like there's more of us out there than like it's true. And I really enjoyed having you on, Ed. You are a wealth of information. And
thank you.
This isn't goodbye. Ed, this is for now.
Like we are encyclopedia.
Yeah, see, you definitely need to come back because we need to touch on even more things. Because
that's what I do there is I take a lot of the broadcasts that we're on and I restore all of the footage back in because on YouTube, some of it's not there. People cut it out.
So go to
And
his Rumble page here, and
that's
you're
on Rumble.
rediscovering Walt Disney on Rumble. Go and support Rumble because YouTube is doing shiesty stuff again. I checked, Dave. You need to check YouTube. Apparently, they're putting creatives and stuff on restricted mode, and that's making all of our
I
visibility.
I
Craig's
heard
been
about
talking
that.
about it the
I
past few
heard
days.
about that.
Here's
I
what's
look, it's
crazy
not for
about
us.
what's
Go for
crazy
it.
about this is I can't put those on YouTube, but I've had people on YouTube steal those and put them up and monetize them. And they're not
so
mine. They're,
ridiculous.
Of
they're-
course.
yeah, and then they argue, well, they're not. You can't own them because they're Disney's. Well, how come you're monetizing them if you're
Yeah.
not Disney?
What's
Yeah.
Because I don't monetize that stuff. That's just there so people can see the historical record.
Archive, yeah.
But everybody go to Rediscovering Walt Disney and go give Ed some support. And go to the Give Send Go right there as you see. Please donate. To Ed, and it
I
helps
list
for
there.
you
You
to
can
do
see
everything
all
that
of
you
the.
do.
You can see some of the things that I've been able to get with that Give Send Go fund. There's record albums there, and I put them online. And like that one on top, that is a gospel record that was the first recorded concert that ever was recorded, for record
That's
album.
awesome.
That was at Disneyland, and it was a gospel performance.
63.
The Golden Horseshoe Review, and I think it was 62 or 63.
63.
Yep. But Walt was present there, and that was the first time it was recorded. It was a gospel group. They sang religious songs. It was on Good Friday one year.
So
That's awesome.
go here, and even if you don't necessarily have to be a fan of Disney, just a fan of history, American history. You want to go, and I'm excited. Like, part of me, I know you're going to go more with the Disney stuff. I'm pumped for when you close the door on Disney in years and you start to go more, because like just in this conversation
I do a little bit of everything on my page. It's just not just Disney.
So pop culture. Like it's exciting. I enjoy talking to you. So once again, at Real Ed McCray over on X. He is a black man on X. So make sure that you are seeing the right person.
My grandfather was black, so I'm just as black as Obama.
There you go. There you go. So what would you be? You're like quarter Black Garrett. Like
be a quarter, I guess. But see, it only ever comes up when I get told by the woke I can't comment on these things because I'm not black. So then I point out, well, I mean, I don't care. It's not going to change my opinion on history, what race you are, and it just is.
Yeah.
But I have people that have doxed me over that.
That's wild, man. That's
They say I don't look like I'm black.
Oh my
Well,
God.
you don't have to look like I'm black.
Things ever.
That's hilarious.
Well, it's always from the left that does it.
Yep.
All right. So everyone, again, go follow Ed McCray at Real Ed McCray over on X. Go support him on Rumble. Go find him on YouTube as well. Rediscovering Walt Disney is also there.
I'm rediscovering Walt Disney everywhere. I'm on all the platforms. I just mostly post on Rumble right now.
No, it makes sense because they're the ones that give you the most.
They don't censor everything.
Exactly. So we'll be back next week. I have no idea who our guest is, Dave, but we're going to come back with someone. But Ed, we will be in discussions again to have you on to talk, because this was so much fun and you're a wealth of information. So we appreciate everyone that watched. Obviously, everyone in the chat, Nate, Caveat, McSquiggles. We always appreciate you guys. Anyone that if you watch, please make sure to give a like, share, follow, all that good stuff. The reason why I ask, and a lot of people that watch are savvy to this, but I ask it every week because liking, commenting, especially post the show, like we love all of our live stream comments, but if you also comment post show, you give us a like, that pushes us up the algorithm. That gives us, even more than the follows. YouTube wants to promote things that are like, that are, all that type of stuff, get comments. So we would love that. Outside of, having the conversation here, watching it, if you like what you see, just take that extra second, click the like button, maybe leave a comment, whatever you want to say, please leave it there. Make sure that if you're listening to this podcast form, same thing, the 5 stars in the comments, that's what it does. It helps push us up. We're going to get Ed onto Criticalist because I think that would also help you in terms of your exposure as you're leaving and educating people there. You'll find people are very curious on Criticalist as well. They love reading, especially the long comments. And we need to, we definitely need to get you on there, and we'll let, I got to message Blaine and let him know that you're freaking awesome. And maybe Blaine and they do a Criticalist podcast. I would love to see if you can get over there so you could talk, because they are movie nerds as well.
Sometimes on Based Comics podcast too, so I'll mention that. I've been on a couple of theirs. You've seen their comics around.
Yes. So everyone, we appreciate you watching, listening, all that good stuff. We'll be back next week. I will at least